This is a regular meeting of the Cameron County Commissioners Court. It is now the, whatever day of, 6th day of December 2012. It is now a little after 8:30 a.m. As we do with all meetings, we will start with a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the U.S. flag and the Texas flag. I'd ask that all the commissioners lead us in the two pledges at the appropriate time. Please rise. Thank you. Commissioners.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
Thank you. Before we get started, let me advise the members of the court and the public that we will have a slight deviation on the agenda. Public comment is normal, consent items is normal, and then from there we will go to a presentation item because the presenters need to catch a flight, and that would be regarding the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. Everything else should go on as presented on the agenda. So with that, let me start off with public comments. In order that I received them, Mr. Fernando Ruiz, followed by Mary Helen Flores, followed by Maggie Galvan, and by Linda Gill, and then Leticia Garzoria.
Commissioner, Judge, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Fernando Ruiz. I'm here to establish for the public record that the citizens of the 34th Congressional District have been disenfranchised by Cameron County in accepting the application for this district from Mr. Filimon Bella. I will allege that Mr. Filimon Bella's residence of address at the time that he submitted the forms, which are brought to the attention of Mr. Ortiz and to Ms. Andrade and also to the Federal Elections Committee, is false. I will allege that he does not live in Cameron County. I will allege that he was a treasurer for his wife, who is a candidate for an incumbent for appeals judge, but she was challenging Mr. Roy Valdez. So let it be established that we have been disenfranchised, and in the proper manner that we're having to select a new elections administrator, because this history of this county corrupt since 1875, and we still follow the same thread. There's nobody, and now that we have the television edited, well, you're the only ones listening to me. But let it be for the record that this is wrong, and something has to be done about this matter because it was cheating, and we don't need that in the electoral process in this country anymore. We're tired of it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mary Helen Flores.
Good morning. My name is Mary Helen Flores, and I'm with Citizens Against Voter Abuse. And I'm here this morning just to share with you my experience, some of my experience as a poll watcher for the November 6 vote counts, and to ask for your help in addressing these problems. I have copies of my report if y'all would like.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'll read it for the record. Citizens Against Voter Abuse, Cameron County, Texas, November 6, 2012, General and BISD Elections, Poll Watcher Report. Monday, 9 a.m., November 5th, 2012, Cameron County Ballot Board members, Maggie Gonzalez, presiding judge, Democrat, Yonel Gonzalez, Democrat, Benita Torres, Democrat, Ida Diaz, Democrat, Laura Lee Ortiz, Democrat, Norma Tovar, Republican, Maria Luisa Tovar, Republican, Rudy Tovar, Republican, Winifred Marshall, Republican, Alva Padron, Republican. The ballot board members are appointed by the county party chairs to accept or reject and count the mail-in ballots. Democrats Maggie and Yonel Gonzalez are a married couple. Republicans Norma, Maria Luisa, and Rudy Tovar of the same family. Cameron County Ballot Board convenes to begin mail-in ballot count. The count was conducted on the first floor of the building. Maggie Gonzalez, Ballot Board presiding judge, gave a brief introduction and orientation. At this time, poll watchers were told that there were 1,336 mail-in ballots and 144 military ballots. The ballot board members were paired off, one from each party at 5 separate counting tables, and instructed on how to conduct the count. Throughout the day, the presiding judge, Maggie Gonzalez, would give instructions or answer questions, and Norma Tovar would interrupt and contradict her. This caused much tension, confusion, and delay in the process. The way they did the count was the mail-in ballot carrier envelope voter signature was compared to the mail-in ballot application voter signature, and if the two ballot board members agreed on a match, then the ballot would be accepted. The precinct voter list would then be marked accordingly. After about an hour, the poll watchers noticed that Benita Torres and Maria Luisa Tovar were not getting much done because they could not see clearly, could not hear clearly, and were confused about the procedure. The issue was brought to the attention of Maggie Gonzalez, and she then repaired those two ladies with more capable ballot board members. As the day went on, different methods than the ones prescribed by the presiding judge were used to process the mail-in ballots at different counting tables. It was noted that many carrier envelopes had black track marks on them. The presiding judge was asked about this, and she replied that they get some like that, and they even get some with wet envelope flaps that must be dried out before they can be opened. The poll watchers were told that the mail-in ballot count would end for the day at 3 p.m. so that all the materials could be moved back to the central counting location and the early vote count could begin. At this time, poll watchers were told that 633 mail-in ballots had been processed, 618 ballots accepted, 15 ballots rejected, and 144 military ballots accepted. At 3 p.m., poll watchers were told to head to the main counting station to begin the early vote count. Poll watchers arrived and waited for hours at the main counting station in the central jury room of the Cameron County Courthouse. The ballot board did not arrive at the main counting station until after 5 p.m. The early vote count did not begin until almost 7 p.m. The ballot board members then switched hats to become the county resolution board. The resolution board is appointed to review and interpret voter intent on the ballots that are kicked out by the voting machine. The early vote count went on until 4 a.m. Election day, November 6, 2012, the mail-in ballot count continued. My observation of the big problem here is had the ballot board and the resolution board consisted of 20 different people instead of the same 10 people, the mail-in ballot count could have been completed on Monday, and the early vote count could have started at an early hour on Monday. Most importantly, our electoral process would be ensured that alert and accurate attention is paid to the counting of each ballot. And then we go on to the provisional count, which was November 13th, 2012. The county ballot board convened to count the provisional votes and the remaining military ballots. The count is held in the voting room of the county elections department. The ballot board is seated around a long table, and poll watchers are standing where we will get a good view of the ballots to be counted. Maggie Gonzalez provides a brief introduction and orientation. Poll watchers are told that there are 608 provisional votes and 10 military votes to be processed. Throughout the day, Norma Tovar interrupts and contradicts what Maggie Gonzalez says, and she does not follow the instructions of Maggie Gonzalez. This causes continuous confusion and delay. Maggie Gonzalez, Norma Tovar, Laura Lee Ortiz, and Winifred Marshall are the only ballot board members to do any of the processing. After 5 p.m., the rest of the ballot board members, who until then had sat at the table doing nothing or texting on their phones, are given tasks to do for the count. After the 608 provisional votes had been processed, 56 of those were accepted to be counted, and 10 military votes were accepted to be counted. At this time in the late evening, as the accepted ballots were to be counted, several black bags were brought into the counting room. Poll watchers were told that these ballots had been found on Friday, November 9th, in the elections office as a worker was cleaning up election supplies. These zippered bags had no locks. The ballots that came out of each bag had no voter roster or election judge's paperwork attached. The ballots that came out of the back bags were neatly stacked, not folded, and none were in any envelopes. Poll watchers were told by Maggie Gonzalez that there was no paperwork with these ballots because they forgot or they were too busy. There were 87 ballots from various precincts that came out of the black bags. 30 ballots for the BISD elections were gathered from the 56 provisional, 10 military, and 87 black bag ballots. My observation is that the black bag ballots should have been reported to the Secretary of State's office when they were found and should not have been counted. These are just basic observations of what issues should be addressed, as well as the fact that on Election Day, many scanning machines were broken throughout the county, and these are the cards from which our totals were gathered when the votes were counted. So that presents a lot of questions. Also, these numbers that came out of Election Day counts produced 3 paid recounts that had to be conducted: BISD, Santa Rosa, and the constable race for Precinct 1. That's a lot of extra expense to pay for these people, and I don't think it's fair because our county's not doing a good job with our elections. Too many questions, lost and found ballots. These are serious issues, and we would like for all of you to please seriously consider what can be done to address the problems.
Santa Maria was the school district, and all those 3 races you mentioned were decided by less than 10 votes, so I understand. Maggie Gavan? Okay. Linda Gill? Leticia Gasoria? Just so you know, just before we get started with that, there is an Elections Commission meeting on Monday where we will have an item for public comment, which would be the more appropriate forum for these types of issues regarding the election. The Election Commission is the one that is solely responsible for hiring the elections administrator, as I understand it, Bruce?
Yes.
Okay. And this commission really has little to say about the hiring of the elections administrator. Where they get involved would be in the termination process of an election administrator, but not the hiring, just so we're clear. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Leticia Perez Garzoria, and I'm here as a follow-up to Mary Helen, and yet independent as well. Merry Christmas to you all, and thank you for your service this year, and I hope you have a safe and prosperous holiday. She has her experience as a poll watcher during this last election. I had an experience, my first experience as a poll watcher, never have been involved in anything at all. It was a horrendous experience, something that I care not to repeat and follow up on, because I was treated so badly. I was treated like abused, assaulted. Physically, police. I had to call the police to have this person. Obviously, he was in a very, very aggressive mood as a poll watcher to the opposing side, which I was poll watching.
Where was this at? I mean, I don't...
At the county courthouse.
Okay. On election day?
On election, early voting. Early voting. And this gentleman got there to the office, and he didn't know what he was doing. He just knew that his name was so-and-so, and that he was poll watching for so-and-so. And that was all he knew. And he sat there, and he turned around and says, "What do I do?" to me. I said, "Sir, what you're supposed to do. I don't know what they told you to do." And it was obvious during the course of the morning that he was not there to poll watch the voters. He was there to watch me. There was an incident where there was a curbside vote, and the particular individual, I went with the elections officer to be there as a witness, as a poll watcher, and he was doing other things and watching and flipping and so on and so forth. So by the time he looked, I had already gone to the curbside. And this obviously, you know, flustered him, and he went up to the other elections officers and said, "¿Qué pasó? ¿Dónde se fue? ¿Dónde se me fue? ¿Dónde se me fue? What is that?" I'm his target? And they told me as I came back, you know what he said, Letty? This and this. I said, why would he say that? Obviously, I was the target. The poll watching, he didn't know what he was doing from step one. He didn't even know why he was there. And so on and so on. This happened to be an incident that got a little bit accelerated to the point that I had to be moved to another station. And during the course of the time, the comment there, when I got there, and I'm not going to say who mentioned it, but it's an elected, not elected, but a paid county worker, says, what are you doing here, Letty? We're glad to see you, because we were friends for a long time. We're glad to see you, Letty. We're glad that you came in, and so on and so forth. But what are you doing here? You need to be at Cristo Rey, Letty. I'm like, why? They're stealing the votes over there, Letty. The people are getting three ballots at a time. I said, what are you telling me? They're getting 3 ballots at the time. You shouldn't even be here, because I can take care of this, but the real problem is over there at Cristo Rey. I said, wow. And you're telling me this? Yeah. A lot of inconsistencies, a lot of problems within units, a lot of things that shouldn't really be going on. Another incident, the candidate's mother went on the sidewalk to protest in a loud voice for about 30 minutes to get me the hell out of there as a poll watcher. Mr. Ortiz just listened silently, and yes, and this is obstructing the vote. This is taking away from the voter security. This is harassing the voter and intimidating. This needs to be free and clean and clear elections for the voters to feel free that they can go up there and they can vote without any restrictions. I'm here to vote. And that's all I want to do. I just want to come here and vote, and I want to walk out. Nothing involving the police or the harassment of the candidate's mother. Hey, what is this? Don't we have officials? Aren't we paying people to keep the peace and have free and fair elections? Very, very bad service, very bad public image, very bad conducting of officials. And I hear commissioners here that want to have, more jobs and more industry and more. How can we attract these people? We cannot even get fair elections here. How sad. And we the people, we've got to shell out some bucks to get this county going, and the city too, because our taxes do count. But what are we getting in return? A slap in the face. And Mary Helen brings up a point, and you know, I really echo it, but I mean, to the point that we're getting to have to call the police, to the point that we're obstructing the voters, to the point that we're getting that all of this is so highly suspicious that you cannot really put your hands behind a fair election, an unbiased election. What should we do?
For now, I think that we need to wrap this one up, because I think we have one more speaker, and we do have some 3 to 4 time limits, and we've already exceeded that.
Okay, I just wanted to share that with you. That was my experience, and I think we can do a better job, and I think we should do a better job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Galvan? No one's going to be able to see it, but you can bring it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Your laptop now becomes county property once you get there.
You may keep it. Yes, my time will be brief. I just want to address something that I think is critical to the citizens and to myself personally. I'm going to read good morning again. My comments to you today are not intended to point fingers at individuals who may or may not have encouraged or conducted our most recent county elections with fidelity, which that is a question for the courts to answer. But my comments are intended to make us pause and consider how as a community we can work to develop key election system elements to ensure that we not only have clarity and purpose of all functions of the election administrator's office, but also to create a mission focused on accountability and consistent monitoring of the election process. It was a great honor for me to serve as a poll watcher this past election, November 6th election for BISD. As the daughter of a World War II veteran, I feel that my vote and that of every citizen is sacred. So, as I begin the process of poll watching, starting from the beginning, November 5th, the early mail-in review, followed by the election day count, followed by the resolution board review, followed by the provisional and military vote count, followed by the mysterious black bag ballots that appeared, we don't know from where, and then followed into the recount of the process. I was appalled, and it angered me to see how this process is handled with no oversight whatsoever. I never saw any of you in there. And I'm very upset. So I went there with a willingness to serve and to participate, and I came out angered by the process. My sense of pride and honor turned into disgust and incredulousness as I witnessed the lack of consistency and the lack of oversight throughout the entire process. I am prepared to share findings in more detail as necessary, with appropriate authorities if necessary, but listed below are a few of my recommendations for my observations that I feel that I need to share with you. Barriers to the process include lack of leadership capacity, poor staff quality, a culture of ineffectiveness, undefined roles and responsibilities, imposing external factors, and improper planning for long-term results. And I could just elaborate on these at will, but I choose not to at this time for lack of time. As a private citizen, and now as a CAVA member, and proudly so, I seek free participation in the selection process for the future county election administrator. I'll seek posted scheduling of elections procedures and workshops and training sessions, a listing of training resources and trainer qualifications, and a written vision statement advocating for the empowerment of citizens, consistency in the process, transparency, and most of all, accountability. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Just as a follow-up on, as far as oversight by this commission does not have oversight over an election, especially at another entity like BISD. I think what you were talking about is the 4 a.m. stuff happened at the school district. And not, our recount did not happen till 4 a.m. The one that we did have, that one did. So, but there's, the election code is very clear as to what procedures are to be followed. All I ask is if you've seen violations, and we've said this before, I've yet to see an affidavit, and I've asked for them. I've never seen one. I've been told about them, haven't seen them. We had a meeting, an opportunity was given to provide affidavits, never saw them. I just had a lot of, like this, a lot of allegations, a lot of, albeit probably legitimate, but nobody here to corroborate the opposing, like so-and-so did this, so-and-so did that, but there's nobody here to do that. You know, if you have, Ms. Garzoria mentioned a legal issue, then you file a police report, like they've been done, and let that process take its course. This commission, as a body, is limited in terms of what we can do when it comes to elections. There is an election commission. Now, this commissioner's court can elect to abolish the elections administrator position, and that authority we do have, and go back to the way it used to be before there was an election administrator, having the county clerk and the tax assessor collector run elections. That's an option, but at some point, somewhere, it was decided that an elections administrator would take over those duties. I think it's unfair that before we even begin the election administrator search, there's already questions about who's going to get hired. Don't know. We haven't gone through the process yet. So I think we need to, no, I'm not talking about you specifically, about some of the phone calls that I've received. Forming advisory committees, forming all this that, which is not going to happen. And on the advice of legal. There's nothing in the elections code that allows for that. And all of a sudden, the elections administrator position is an important county position. So is every department in Cameron County. And so for us to start appointing advisory committees to hire a county administrator, an auditor, a purchasing agent, Sana takes away. We are, we have a duty as I'm the only one of the people that are up here that did not win with a landslide vote. And so a lot of the people that are on the Elections Commission did. So you have representatives that are there that are entrusted to make the decisions that you want to bring these advisory committees in to do. They're entrusted to do that. We're going to go through a process on Monday, so the court knows, to begin the interview process of 7 applicants out of the 16 that met the minimum qualifications. I hope to find somebody within that pool. If we do not, then we will continue the search. Everybody here wants fair elections. I don't think, I have not heard anybody say they don't want a fair election. But I think that the course that y'all are taking is admirable, but I have yet to see any corroborated evidence where there's sworn affidavits. There's been 2 court, all I was told was that there was affidavits. And if they're in law enforcement, then you let law enforcement
Judge,
take its course.
Yeah, I think we're getting a little
far afield
here.
I apologize. I'm just, it's just, I understand that. I just get somewhat frustrated, like everybody else does, about how our system is so imperfect, which it is, and corrupted, possibly. Pardon me? Well, so is life. Okay. No, I'm not. I'm just saying there is no perfect world. And I just think that whenever we have an agenda item that people that are being brought down have an opportunity to defend what happened. Now, again, all I'm saying is we have an election administrator, law enforcement gets involved. Like I said, I've never seen anything. Let law enforcement take its course. If a crime was committed, then let that take its course.
Judge, if I may, maybe we should just put an agenda item so we can discuss this, because I think we're kind of going
we can do that
beyond
after
what we're allowed with public comment.
We can do that. We can do that as well. It'll be after the Elections Commission meeting, I'm afraid. Okay, any other public comment from anybody that did not sign up? Would you like to say something now, Ms. Gill? Yes, ma'am, please. You were on the list, by the way.
Good morning. My name is Ermelinda Gil Martinez. I was a candidate for BISD Place 7. Ultimately, I asked for a recount. There were a lot of improprieties. The recount was not conducted as it should have. As you say, there is no affidavits at this point, but there will be. In my case, there was the 5 black bags that came out at the end of the provisional and military counting. Then that's when my votes went, or his votes went up. And then that election, the recount was given to BISD. BISD, in my opinion, did not conduct that recount appropriately. There was people going in and out. There was no security that I know of. There was no, the rejected ballots were not put up to the side. There was rejected ballots just because the executor or the officer decided that it was his call and I was to take it up with the Secretary of State. I have spoken to the Secretary of State. Is there anyone else I can speak to besides the Secretary of State to discuss these issues that occurred. For example, there is no record of the rejected ballots. Should there be a record of rejected ballots?
BISD conducted that recount. There was a recount supervisor that was appointed that does that recount. I think it's the board chair. I don't know if you've addressed those concerns to the recount supervisor. The election administrator is here, but I believe that he passed that Roger, you passed that responsibility on to BISD, correct? They were in charge of all that. Is that correct?
Who trains them? Because they're not election
No,
experts.
the election code doesn't call for who should be trained. It's very specific in terms of who the recount coordinator is and what the responsibility of that person is. And it's in the election code. There's
Judge, with all due respect, this is not a forum for a question and answer, situation here. It's turning into.
Okay.
If she, our good citizen here has every right to speak here for the limited time you give them, but this is not a time to engage with a conversation about the election. If you need to make comment, you speak to existing policy or a factual response. Other than that, we're getting way off base here.
Existing policy says that there was supposed to be a record of all rejected ballots.
Whatever's in the election code, it speaks for itself. That's
Yes,
all I'm being allowed to answer.
Yes, I understand that. And actually, I appreciate you giving me the attention you're giving me. But there was a lot of improprieties. The folks that came from the election office were in and out of that place. There was no security. I mean, the security guards were there, but these folks were just in and out and laughing and talking and just having a good old time when they were supposed to be taking care of those ballots. And I'm assuming or guessing that they were supposed to be the guards of those ballots. And those ballots are now, all the rejected ballots from the answer that I got from Norma Carrillo was that all those rejected ballots are somewhere with all the regular ballots. And there is no record of those ballots. And maybe one of the reasons I can be up here, not for a question and answer, sir, but is to make everyone aware that the system is broken.
Bruce, let me ask a question of legal.
Yes, sir.
Can Roger answer that specific question that she's asked about the rejected ballots?
No.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I would like to speak with you eventually.
Yes, ma'am.
I
Okay.
will set up a meeting with you personally.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Thank you.
He might have a
Thank you.
conversation with her about her complaint, but not in this forum, and he cannot speak in response to this as a matter of discussion on behalf of the county in this forum at this time.
Okay.
If you want to set this up for an agenda item and have an open discussion, that's acceptable, but this is improper.
Okay, well, basically, then let me just tell you that the system is definitely broken. I witnessed it.
Okay, let me do this. Roger's in the audience, and I'd hate to put him on the spot, but Roger, if you can, if you go like off stage, and maybe speak with Ms. Gill and anybody else, if you got specific questions that he may be able to answer, do it now. If you don't have anything on agenda right now, other than the canvassing, and on the council, we can wait for that. If you can, just speak to them and maybe give these things to him so maybe he can answer these questions.
I'm very much aware.
That's all I can tell you.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I've been speaking to the lawyers from the Secretary of State, and I've had some very extensive conversations as to the improprieties that occurred. And there are actually codes of improprieties that occurred. For example, the 5 black bags that were found in a container of supplies 5 days later, 4 days later. And that I know of, there was no one that called the Secretary of State to get a judgment as to count those ballots.
Well, let me have...
And that goes way back when. That does go
Yeah,
to
well,
the
let me
county.
go ahead and just have, Roger, if you can speak to Ms. Gill and whomever that's here from the audience that you all want to talk out there about specifics, and just to do the best you can, and that's all I can tell you. Okay?
But I do appreciate your attention.
Thank you, ma'am.
Judge.
Thank you. All right, Roger, please. Yeah, just visit with them and answer their questions as best you can. Any other public comment? Okay. On consent, any item under consent, anybody wish to discuss and take out of order and discuss separately?
Item C.
Item C, okay. B. Item B is in B, okay.
Judge.
Anything else?
Judge. Item K.
I'm sorry, which one's the other one?
Item K.
Okay.
We were going to request to table that, but we have a request from the sheriff's office to speak on that item.
Well, the item specific, okay, we can, okay. All right, what else? Anything else? Do I hear a motion to approve consent items with the exceptions of item B, C, and K?
So moved.
By Commissioner Garza,
Second.
second by Commissioner Sanchez. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Item B, consideration approval of time extension for supplemental work. Commissioner?
Was there a supplemental work authorization 5? Why did we go from 4 to 6?
No, the supplemental is number 4. The
Right.
work authorization is number 6.
Oh, okay.
When we add the
It goes
work
back to that
to
particular
the
one.
supplement.
Okay.
So this is the 4th time we,
Okay. Do I have a motion to
added.
approve
So
this?
moved.
By Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Benavides.
just real quick.
Yes, sir.
I was in Matamoros on Monday, and I was able to tour not only the expansion of the Veterans Bridge, but also as part of that project, they are building 2 overpasses. And if y'all are familiar with the that portion on the Mexican side of Los Tomates, where the Soriana is at, and there's a cinema, they're building an overpass. So now it'll be elevated all the way to connect to the Cavazos Lerma Loop that goes around the city of Matamoros. And so probably by next June, you'll have a direct shot from the Veterans Bridge to the middle of Matamoros. And then it will also have a ramp that you can exit and get onto the loop that goes all the way to Highway 2. So then the only portion from Highway 2 that is needed is to the future Flor de Mayo. So, and that road is in place, and so they're a little bit ahead of us as far as, you know, the Flor de Mayo. But it was good to see all the progress that they've done on their end. And as you all know, we have a consultant that works with us that coordinates our projects on the Mexican side. And just on the Veterans Bridge alone, you know, we got about $50 million in federal funds for the Veterans Bridge project and those overpasses. And those 3 projects were part of the tour that President Calderon took when he was down in Matamoros.
Thank you, Pete. Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, item carries. Item C, consideration approval of awarding a servicing of existing flood insurance. Commissioner?
The only reason I pulled this is, do we have to rebid this, or can we just let someone else take over?
Martha, is that your item? Or Tom?
I can answer your question. The agenda item only deals with servicing existing coverage. We will rebid, we will prepare the new RFP because the current RFP expires August 22, 2013. The original RFP was awarded to Cavazos Insurance. Cavazos Insurance closed its door, and right now this deals only with servicing current year. The agent who will be servicing it, he will not, or he or she will not profit materially from it because the commission on the current coverage year had been already paid to Cavazos Insurance. We will prepare the new RFP before August 22nd, 2013, to answer your question. And the reason why I recommended the Legacy Insurance, that it's a company that was started by the Sandra Cavazos, the former employee of the Cavazos Insurance, and she's the person who knows the best our policy, our property, and our policy, and she actually saved substantial amount of money on the last renewal by reclassifying some of the properties due to the new zones, flood zones.
Okay. Well, and I don't have a problem with her. I just didn't know if legally we could just switch it over without rebidding.
I mean, I sent my email to legal department for recommendation, and I was told that we can do it for the remainder of the year, and then we will have to rebid it, prepare the new RFP at the end of this year.
At the end of, this month?
No, the current
or
flat
the
coverage.
fiscal year?
The RFP runs through August 2013.
Okay, so in August, then you're going to RFP
Before
this out.
August, yes, we are going to RFP.
All right.
Okay.
Yes.
So my question was for legal. We're all right.
We're okay, Commissioner, because this is bought and paid for. It's simply a technical transfer
Okay.
to a new outfit to carry out the preceding agreement.
Okay, move to approve.
Moved by Commissioner Sanchez, second by Commissioner Gatsa. Any discussion? All those
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any
Aye.
opposed, item carries. On item K, consideration and authorization to provide office space at the Harlingen Annex Building to State Rep Oscar Longoria. Is this, let me ask a question. I was asking David earlier, or maybe Pete. This is a same state office that was being used by Juan Escobar. Is it Juan? Yes. Juan Escobar, Tara Rios, and J.M. Lozano during their term. Is this the existing location?
Yes.
The existing spot? Okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And I know the sheriff had some concerns about office space or something, but has the sheriff's office even used that office space in the last 8 years or 6 years?
Are you asking whether the state reps have used that office at all?
No, if the sheriff's office is used
No,
that
from the
office.
very beginning, that was supposed to be part of the sheriff's office, okay? Because I was involved in some of the drawing. However, the previous administration wanted to make, available some office space, so, we hadn't allowed to do that because we had any say on it. But we have really run out of space there, Judge. We hired additional officers, and as Commissioner visited the space yesterday, he could see that we are out of space out there.
What is it that you want to use the space for?
Okay, I want to bring one of the girls that's back there working out in what we consider records, and the operator put up in the front office, which that was the idea at the very beginning. The other one is an office that we need because when we have sexual predators or some of those things like that, or we take private interviews with people, we need to have that privacy. Otherwise, Judge, if you go out there, it's just like we are right here. The officers sitting right next to the other. It's difficult to interview a witness. They're reluctant to give that information.
Sheriff, let me ask you a question. If we, what would your option be if we did continue to offer this space to Mr. Longoria? What are your options?
Well, we'll be crowded, that's all. We have to realize, Judge, that we have grown, and, we're just out of space as far as that goes.
Yeah, I just think it's important to have your office is important as well, but it's important to have a presence of our local state rep. Has anyone come up with a floor plan as to how we can utilize, maybe try to accommodate the sheriff's concern with maybe part of the office and then the state rep with another part of the office?
Well, let me just say this, Judge. I guarantee you that offices have been empty 90 to 95% of the time. That's wasted space. Wasted space that we said, maybe it'll work best for everybody's concerned. It has not. Okay. Eddie III has an office, and he pays out of it in San Benito. Senator has an office here. Armando Martinez out in Westlaw has a private office out here. Don't misunderstand me. I like to work with everybody. I like to help them out. But, there's a time when you can't do it. Simple as that. I don't know if Peter has another idea or not.
No, the only thing I was going to mention is that Rep-elect did request that the item be tabled. And so that can give us an opportunity to get with the sheriff.
Well, it's tabled because he doesn't go in for another month or so. So I guess let me ask Sally, Judge Gonzalez.
There's actually 2 offices that are not being utilized at all. I mean, I've talked to Oscar Longoria on several occasions. He's guaranteed me that he will staff that office. It's a very, very small office. But then there's another office that has a window that the county clerk would utilize to take partial payment.
Isn't he out of there?
Yes.
They're out. That office is empty as well.
Why don't we do this? Why don't,
both offices are vacant right now.
Both offices are vacant,
Yeah,
so
why don't-
I would love to see our state rep.
Yeah, why don't we do this? Why don't, as requested by Mr. Longoria, have this item tabled, and then you all get together in the next few weeks, or maybe right after the new year, and see if we can.
I mean, I'm sure the
Logistically
sheriff
set
utilized
something
one of the
up.
offices and him the other,
I
you
mean,
know?
Look, Sheriff, we sat through at least a dozen meetings in planning that building, minimally. It is a building that I was involved with when we went through the construction process. Sally, you were there many times. You were there many times. We did a whole lot of things to accommodate your department, you know, within the confines of the budget that we had at the time, you know. But from the very inception of the building plans, and Pete and David attended either or most of the meetings with Juan, the architect, Juan Mojica. We built that office there specifically for the use by whoever the state rep was going to be in that area, to encourage their presence in the northern part of Cameron County. And maybe not their individual presence, but their office presence, so that people would have a place where they could go and visit with, you know, because that district is a kind of strange district. It has a huge geographic area that goes all the way to Sullivan City, you know. And we were trying to encourage him to have an office open. And before it was Tara Rios that had that office, and she had a large area. Before it was Juan Escobar, and he used that office, you know, also with his secretary, Yolanda, I remember, was staffing that office.
Alexandra.
But it was built originally to include.
I mean, I understand what the sheriff is saying,
it's a 10 by 10 or an 8
I've
by 10.
outgrown my area. I mean, we can utilize another clerk. Our office is just extremely busy all the time, you know. But also, you know, you might want to look at the fact that I don't know if the Constable Diaz will be utilizing all that constable's department that's there as well, you know, or he might want to, you know, grade it down to, you know, 1 or 2 deputies, because that's a big office in itself. You know, I understand what the sheriff is saying, but I'm like you. I feel that the representation of a state rep in our building, you know, should be there.
I mean, we're building a building in Los Fresnos, and we're already out of space, and we're not even in it yet. You know,
Cameron County is definitely growing.
DPS is like one in an office, you know. And this is, you know.
Well, DPS had an office, and somehow when they got to that building, they found that they were gone. But let's stick to this first. I still think, go back and look at the footprint of this, and if we can make an accommodation, we can. But I think that we need to keep in mind that having a state rep presence there is equally important. If Mr. DeVetta has moved out, they got some space there available, maybe we can utilize that as well. So let me have a motion to table it, and then you guys, and you know what, I think Judge Gonzalez's point of getting Constable Diaz involved in this as well, see what his plans are for, you know, for his office, and maybe we can figure all this out, okay? Do I hear a motion to table?
So moved.
By Commissioner Benavides, second by Commissioner Garza. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. We can go to the presentations. We're going to go ahead and do 2 of them. We're going to do the employee one also, but let's do the presentation of a check from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife.
Morning, Judge, Commissioners. This morning we're proud and honored to have Tom Calhoun from U.S. Fish and Wildlife. He's the CAP liaison with the Fish and Wildlife. Here this morning, he's going to do the check presentation to the Hook for Life. But just a brief history, the $26,180 that we awarded to Hook for Life Kids Gone Fishing came from the 2007 CAP money. So it's going for a good project, good cause. David Mendez, who's the president and founder of Kids Gone Fishing, and is here this morning. Mary Jane Shantz with the University of Texas, who's partnering with them to get this project done as an outreach project, is here this morning representing the university. And of course, Joe and myself, who serve on the Coastal Task Force. Of course, Commissioner Garza and Commissioner Benavides as well. Tom, I'm going to turn it over to Tom to go ahead and speak.
I think you may want to introduce Commissioner Zamora, too, who's here from the city of Brownsville. They're hiding behind the shadows there.
Yeah, I was going to let David introduce, because I think she sits on the board.
Yeah, she's a big fisherman as well.
Tom.
Good morning. I'm Tom Calnan. I'm the Texas State Liaison for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Coastal Impact Assistance Program. As you know, the county, Cameron County, receives funds from this program, and I've worked with this program for 6 or 7 years previously as an employee of the General Land Office. The General Land Office manages this program at the state level. I retired and then came back as the liaison for the federal liaison for this program. Cameron County receives funds for very large-scale projects, as you know. Bahia Grande, the restoration of Bahia Grande is occurring because of funds from this program. Restoration, beach nourishment on South Padre Island, another very large-scale funding project that comes from the CAP program, and many others. It's been a long time coming. We're finally awarding all these projects. I really appreciate working with Javier and Joe Vega on this. They've been wonderful, very patient. It's taken a lot of patience to get to this point. My point is, all these large-scale projects are great, but something like this Hook for Life Kids Gone Fishing program, not a lot of money, but the benefits, environmental, educational benefits are great. Who knows what the benefits will be? I myself, I'm a marine biologist by background. I can trace my roots back, my career back to the time that I got a rod and reel at an early age and started fishing. So it's carried me this far, and I think it's an extremely important project. I'm happy to be here to make this. It's symbolic presentation, but it's a wonderful program that's now operating, and I think David Mendez wants to say something about the program.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. Good morning, Judge, County Commissioners. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here today on this special day. Hook for Life Kids Gone Fishing is a free fishing tournament for kids, not only from our community, but from other cities. This year we had kids competing from 27 cities. We had kids from Corpus Christi, San Antonio, Round Rock, and cities within the Rio Grande Valley. Last year we broke a Guinness World Record for the largest fishing tournament. We had 2,206 kids participating in the event. This year we had well over 1,700 kids participating. Our aim is to introduce kids to the sport of fishing, and this year 30% of the kids that fished our event, that was their first time to fish ever. So on behalf of the Hook for Life board, and some of our board members are here today, we have Commissioner Dan Sanchez, Commissioner Melissa Zamora, Mr. Don Breeden is here today. We want to thank the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, Cameron County, the Cameron County Task Force, UTB for coming together and for this effort. Also want to thank Mayor Joe Vega and Javier Mendez. They spearheaded this effort, and I want to thank you for all your hard work. So again, we are truly honored to have federal and local agencies helping out on a local effort that impact the children in our community. So next year's event's going to be on May the 18th, so if you can mark your calendar, please join us. I know most of you have already been to our event, so we appreciate your efforts and your support in this project. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Any other comment? I want to thank, well, Brownsville Herald is gone, but the Brownsville Herald's done a pretty good job of promoting the event as well, you know, through their news media, and I think they've run several stories on it and highlighted some of the, you know, some of the kids that, and some of the parents that have gotten involved, so I want to thank them as well. Well, Joe, what do you want to do now? You want to give us?
I guess Yvette left, but we were going to take a photograph of the check, so I don't know if we have a camera.
I think we need to get Mr. Betancourt up here to see if we can deposit that thing in our account. It's direct deposit, David.
And by the way, $26,000 is a lot of money for our organization.
It's a lot of money.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you all very much.
Yeah, can we take a picture with the county officials up here,
Sure.
the judge, commissioners right here with the check?
And David, I just want to congratulate you on a great job. You've done a great job putting Kids Gone Fishing together, getting all the board members. In fact, my brother David said he apologized he couldn't be here this morning, but he's sitting on assignment in Duval County as a visiting judge. But he wanted to congratulate you for all of your hard work and all the efforts.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I just got his text a little while ago.
Good.
Do I hear a motion to acknowledge the presentation?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Benavides, second by Commissioner Hernandez. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, item carries. Let me go ahead and take item B now that we're on there. This is the presentation to employees of Cameron County with a whole bunch of years of service and acknowledgement. We had a little breakfast for them this morning. Members of the commission were there to acknowledge them as well. I'm just going to read the names real quick. We've already given the pins out to the folks that were there. I asked for those folks that were not there that Human Resources provide their pins to them. In the year 2010, for 25 years of public service, Hilda Lund with PD&M, Rosie Sotelo with the District Clerk's Office, Robert Lopez, Constable Precinct 4, Salvador Tinajero Jr. with the Sheriff's Office, Jesus Victor St. Clair with Department of Transportation, Jose Luis Salazar, Engineering Department, Judith Eves, 103rd District Court, and Migdalia Lopez, 197th Court. As of 2010, those represent folks that have been with the county for 25 years or more. On the 30 years, it was Judge Benny Ochoa, JP Precinct 1, and Ruby Lee Garza from the Health Department, also with 30 years. 35 years, remember this is 2010, 35 years was Judge Sally Gonzalez, and she was here. She's the only, well, she was here and she gave she's still here. She gave a lengthy speech of her public service and how proud we are to have you as one of our fine JPs. Thank you, Sally. On 20, what? Less than 5 minutes. Just,
would you like to make a comment now, Judge, for the people at home?
For less than 3. Thanks.
We're going to limit you to 2 minutes, though. We're like an appeals court.
I've just
2 minutes per year of service, okay?
Oh my God, you'd have me here all day. You have to understand that I'm an elected official just like you, and don't give me a microphone. But I just want to thank you once again. I feel very honored to have been given my 35 years. You know, actually in January it'll be 38, but I'm honored. I am want to continue serving you all. As a capacity of a clerk, I was a clerk, court administrator, almost 18 years, and I just got reelected for my 6th term. And I am going to feel very blessed to continue to serve you all, at least for 4 more years and maybe 4 after that. God bless.
Thank you, Sally. As of the end of 2011, 25 years or more of service, José Gutierrez with the Sheriff's Department, Marta Rodriguez, Sheriff's Department, Manuel Cisneros, Engineering, Danny Huerta, Sheriff's Department, Frank Sanchez, Constable Precinct 2, Victor Gonzalez, Engineering Department, Norma Carrillo with Elections, Jesus Montalvo, Juvenile Court. 30 years of service or more, Francisco Gonzalez with the Sheriff's Department and George L. Garcia with the Sheriff's Department. These folks that were present this morning were honored with just a token pan of appreciation and a little breakfast. I want to thank you all for it. For those that were able to participate this morning, thank you for being there and showing your support. Do I hear a motion to acknowledge?
So moved.
Second.
By Commissioner Benavides and by Commissioner Hernandez. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Let's go ahead and let's get that last presentation out of the way now that we're here. Presentation of annual report for the City of San Benito's tax increment zone. Who's here? Then we'll go back to the action items.
Judge, County Commissioners, this is a statutory presentation that the Cameron County entered into an interlocal agreement with the City of San Benito in 2007 for a tax increment reinvestment zone. And Chapter 311 of the Texas Tax Code requires that an annual report be made to the county judge, the county commissioners. And so I'm just going to run through this real quickly, what needs to be said. The total due from the city for 2012 is $53,986.47. The total due from the county for 2012 is $25,585.42. There have been no expenditures from the fund in 2012. There is no bonded indebtedness for the zone, and none is anticipated in the foreseeable future. The tax increment base year for the zone is 2009. I'm sorry, I said 2007 a minute ago. The base value is $15,575,165, and the zone value for 2012 is $22,989,616. The incremental increase in value for 2012 was $7,414,451. The city participates at 100% of its property tax rate, and the county participates at 100% of its maintenance and operation property tax rate. And I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from members of the commission?
Move to approve.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa to approve and acknowledge, second by Commissioner Sanchez. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Let's go back now to the regular agenda. Budget amendments, line item transfers under salary schedules.
Good morning, Judge Commissioners. You have the budget amendments in front of you. The first one that you have, budget amendment, is for the Parks Department, and they are using donations for their one of their beach cleanups that they do. And the other ones are line item transfers. You have one for the district courts for the Health Department. There is one listed for Department 2104611. It's titled the block grant. Please delete that one from your schedule. There is no need to present that budget, that line item transfer. The next page is for the VOCA grant. You have one for the HIDA Director's Admin, Juvenile Grant, and the Sheriff's Federal Forfeiture. And you also have a salary schedule for the Juvenile Department and the Juvenile Probation. And then you have another one for the salary schedule for the 5th Judicial Region, which reflects the $500 increment to slots 2 and 3. And those have not been presented yet for your approval.
Any questions?
Do you recommend?
Yes.
Do I hear a motion?
I move.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Benavides, second by Commissioner Gatsa. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Claims.
Claims are warrants number 291673 through 292327. There is also Caremark and medical claims for $278,562.35. Payroll dated December the 7th for $1,676,751.55. I placed an additional payroll in front of you for $212.23. I'd also like to read in 4 voids. One of them was dated August 31st. It's check number 286760 for $1,000. That check was voided. It was lost by the vendor apparently, and it has been reissued. Check number 289682 for $440. That was a payment made out to Texas Association of Counties, and when the check went out, it needed to have attention, a particular department. It was the same address, so it was returned by the vendor. It has been reissued. The other one is check number 290432 for $32.80. That was undeliverable address. It is pending address verification. When we get the correct address, we will send it out again. The other is check number 290992. It's a check for $1,500 also to be voided. The first payment was processed with no invoice. It was an online form that was filled out and submitted for payment. That one was signed by that, and it was processed for payment. Then on November the 9th, a PO was requested by the department and sent in with an invoice, or rather with a claim, the statement from the company. So it was processed again on the PO, and consequently one was voided. So the one that is being voided is the one for November.
Why did they, so they electronically submitted payment and then they requested a PO?
They went online to renew it, and they submitted that electronic form, the form that was filled out online for payment, and that one was processed. And then when a statement was received from the company in November, then the department requested a PO. The PO was issued, and along with the PO and the statement, it was sent in for payment, and that's why it was processed again.
Oh, and what department was that?
That was one of the county courts.
Okay. But you caught it, right?
Well, it was returned by the vendor.
Oh, the vendor sent it back
payment,
saying,
yes.
hey, you already paid it?
You already paid, yes. And unless there's any questions, I recommend.
Any questions? Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Garza, second by Commissioner Hernandez. Please note my abstentions on the affidavits I provided. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Minutes. September the 27th, October the 11th, and October 25th. Are those ready to go? If not, do I hear a motion to table, or are you ready to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Moved by Commissioner Hernandez to approve. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Withdraw, you want to table?
Move to table.
Table by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Benavides. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item D, discussion possible adoption of a Cameron County legislative agenda for the 83rd legislative session.
Judge, Commissioners, you should have pretty much the same document that we've been going over the last few meetings, or last meeting on this issue, on this topic. I know that the judge has mentioned with regards to veterans, trying to look at something to help them in their homestead exemption.
What I'd like to do is entertain offering or having our legislative officials introduce legislation that would give veterans, right now, as I understand it, Tony's here, Tony Seguin is here. I mentioned to him, now Tony, as of right now, veterans get a homestead deduction if they are 100% disabled. Is there something else for a bit less than that, or is it 100% disabled? They get a 100% homestead exemption. What I'd like to do is take it a step further and have them entertain even if it's a local option, but I prefer not to be, to give all veterans 100% exemption and their surviving spouses on their homestead. I don't think that the impact would be that great. It won't be any impact at the state level, but at the local level, it's going to have some impact. But much like we give 50% exemptions for historical buildings, we may want to looking at that. I'd like to get that run by you all and see if we can include that. If it passes, great. If it doesn't, so be it. But I'd like to entertain that. Since we talk about all these sacrifices and what veterans do, we don't give them anything back unless they come back and they're disabled. And I think there's an opportunity to give them or their surviving spouse, if they serve in the military, some kind of a tax break, at least on their homesteads. That's what I'd like to do.
You're talking about 100%?
Or up to the most you can give is, right now we give 100% if they're disabled.
They're disabled.
We can put it on the agenda and then start the dialogue with.
It's got to start somewhere, and if we can do,
Staff
whatever it
and
is, I just think we need to do something for them, because we talk about giving them everything, we're trying to give them, at the end of the day, really they get very little back when they come back. We may not be able to offer a lot of job opportunities, even though there's things out there in place, but something like this is a direct dollar in their pocket if it helps them not having to pay ad valorem taxes on their homestead, just on their homestead alone. I think it'd be a great asset and a great benefit to them.
And this would be state and federal?
Well, there's no federal, but this would just be state. Well, even then, the state, though, does not.
Well, but when you define veteran, just U.S. Armed Forces or like state National Guard?
No, all
I mean, state guard.
All veterans,
okay.
if they're classified as a veteran. Of course, they got to do the application process and stuff like. But I think it's a good way to help them out, just like we do now. But I just don't believe they need to be 100% disabled to get, a deduction.
Some sort of benefit.
Work it out to where, up to X, and you can make it a local. I just want to get it in there, and then let up to the individual entity like we do now. Or you can make it mandatory. Again, this has no impact on the state budget at all. It's all local monies.
Well, they're good at sending unfunded mandates, so.
Yep. Okay.
We'll add that, and then if there's anything else
I
that.
have a couple of questions, David.
Yes, sir.
This is a pretty broad-based agenda.
Yes.
Are there any specifics you're going after? One of them was the amusement machines issue. I think Mr. Izaguirre had a couple of agenda items he's working on. Is there anything specific that you're looking at? Because there's no way you're going to get all of this.
No, these are just general topics, a lot of them, but some of them are more specific. I can tell you that SpaceX legislation is going to be, they've got, I know that they're working with our delegation to find some avenues through legislation to make it easier for them to do what they need to do. So that's going to be an important priority to us. Transportation as well is going to be a top priority for us. And then I know there's some education issues, and then there's windstorm legislation. So I would think right now those would be the top 4 items that we can probably target.
What about our hot tax?
As well as the venue tax, exactly. That would be more of a local bill that we're working on.
The economic development.
Right,
Yes.
but I mean, we need to make sure that's one of our priorities.
Correct.
One of the things that seems to be gathering support in other parts of the state is the solid waste collection ability for the counties to enforce that at the local level, or at least have that option. I think it's worked great for us, but I think that we need to push it a step further and require, especially in subdivided areas.
I believe there is legislation being developed.
Already, I think if it hasn't been introduced, it should be introduced, But I think that we need to make sure that, we complain about having to do cleanups and having to do trash pickups and stuff, and a lot of that occurs because there is no enforcement per se right now of requiring anyone to have solid waste collection. So I think that ability needs to be at least given to the counties to support. I know that Hidalgo is doing a big initiative on that also.
Yeah, what we'll do next is along the lines that you're mentioning, Commissioner Hernandez, we will break it up into the top 5 priorities, and then we'll have a second tier of other items that we'll make sure that are on our radar screen so that they know that we're also.
Let me mention 2 things that goes kind of along with what Commissioner Garza is saying. The lights and sidewalks in the basic plans for new subdivisions as a safety feature, and just a general overall upgrade of the subdivision ordinance. We're trying to create one, and allowing us to bill for lighting in the unincorporated areas, because that's a major problem that we have right now, is lighting, and of course the infrastructure that goes with it. Solar lighting is still very expensive, but we need to find a way that we can bill. I know, again, we'll go back and mention Tony's name again, but he found a way to do it, but I don't know if we can do that in every case. So legislation to help us do that would be good.
Okay.
Anything else?
That's all I got.
I hear a motion to, ask David to continue. David, on these, how soon do,
Yeah, we want to get this to our delegation probably in the next week.
Well, I move to adopt this as our,
with the addition of the veterans issue,
Okay.
correct?
Yes.
Are you going to give them a little bit more specificity in terms of?
Yes.
Because I think this is really a shotgun approach.
Yes.
Are you going to do something more
Yeah,
of
we'll sit
a
down.
bullseye?
Yes. I
Okay.
will.
And then who's going to be, are you going to be keeping up with the status of where these issues are? I would talk to, directly to the senator and state rep staff and make sure that the ones that are, they're all important, but the ones that are really going to focus on, make sure they get that in quickly.
Yeah, if you get your human resource director on staff, it'll give you more time to work on this agenda.
Good thinking.
And
then,
you know, a lot of these things,
We need a couple of directors.
a lot of these things have already, a lot of the bills have already been filed
Yeah.
that directly impact what we're talking about here. So it's just a matter of following up.
Right.
Yeah, there's a tracking system. And, you know, we've been assured, you know, Representative Todd Hunter in the calendars committee said that he could put us on his distribution list of what's on the calendars, you know, so that'd be great for you.
Yeah, he's going to be important.
Yeah.
And then next week when we meet, make sure that we take this and give it to Amy. All right. Or Ann. Ann.
Second. There was a motion made, so second.
Okay, so who made the motion?
Dan did.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Sanchez, second by Commissioner Gatsa. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries. Thank you. Discussion possible action regarding JP and Constable as it relates to office locations, personnel. This is go back, we had a meeting a couple of days ago, I guess, trying to figure out where we are. Just for clarification of the creation of the 2-3 spot, where some of those folks that were going to be out of the slots December 31st, where they're going to go, and I think we got some issues, and I want to make sure that the court is brought up to speed with them if they have any suggestions as to where they're going to go. I don't know who's going to present this. Do you want to do it as to where we are and what we're doing?
There's a few issues going
Well,
on here.
before you start, David, I'd like to just make one comment. There were a lot of questions that were brought to my attention in the course of the last 30 days in regards to the changes that are occurring with locations and personnel in some of the offices, especially in the San Benito area and the Rio Hondo area. I called David and I asked him to please give us a report on the agenda during our meeting so that we can all be on the same wavelength on all the changes that they relate to location, personnel, budgets, and the folks that are directly impacted. You know, I did whatever I did on the budget. I voted on the budget with the mindset that there was going to be some consolidation and that we would not be getting rid of folks.
And that it would be ready January 1st.
Right.
And that's not
You
gonna
know,
happen.
you know, since then I know he's had numerous meetings with the different departments. So I think it's important, and I think we have some folks here that are directly impacted by the decisions that were made back when we adopted the budget that need to hear it from us as to what needs to happen or what we voted on and did, you know.
Right, I agree, because the idea in making those changes was we were trying to keep people from losing their jobs. Right. Maybe they'd have to, you know, come work in a different office in a different town, but we were going to try to ensure that everybody still kept their job.
Right.
And that was our idea, and that's how we voted when we shifted these positions. Now, if they weren't put in the right place, well, maybe we need to correct that now. But let's figure it out.
Yeah, and that's the purpose of this agenda item. You know, there's a few things going on here. So I know Commissioner Garza did have some questions, as well as Commissioner Hernandez as well. And so I guess we can start on the personnel issues, which is probably the most important right now. And we can start in the La Feria area with JP, which was JP 71 before. But if you recall, during the budget process, There was discussions regarding the slot that was no longer going to be needed in that court to be moved to a court of law, county court of law office. And that judge, Judge David Gonzalez, was here before you requesting that, and that was granted. The slot was granted, and so the issue we're having now is that there is no guarantee that the employee assigned to that slot is going to be moving to that particular new office in County Court of Law Judge David Gonzalez's office. So,
Why is that?
Didn't he say he would take whoever we sent?
Yeah.
he said that he would. He is interviewing people, including that particular person this week, I think at the end of this week. And so there still remains that possibility, but we don't know for sure at this point.
The way I understood it, Commissioners, is that he had made it seem at that time what you just said, but now he says it's his right to choose, from whoever he wants to choose, and not particularly that particular person. This is the most recent conversation that was relayed to me.
Well, that's not what he said here before.
That's not
I
what he said
agree.
before the court,
I agree, but I'm just telling you that's what.
Folks need to understand that that was the intent. I agree.
Right.
I mean, we could have said no.
And I did speak to him.
We said yes because he agreed to take the individual.
So that's slot number one that is in limbo. We can reach out to him again, or I think he's going to be interviewing tomorrow, and so we'll get an update on that slot, hopefully tomorrow by.
My concern is if he interviews, how are we going to protect the employee that was going to go there? What's going to happen to her? I mean, if now he changes his mind, after having come before us and let us know that, he needed this third person and he would take this
And
clerk or whatever.
Our only option would be next fiscal year, take that slot back.
That doesn't help the person.
That's right, it doesn't.
Right, because we can't do a mid-year amendment, right?
Well,
It hadn't started yet, though, because that one was like on the first of the year.
No. Well, I remember talking
Oh,
about...
have we transferred it over though, Judge?
No, what we've talked about many times in the past is that you really can't encumber an elected official with who they can hire. And I remember him discussing, said, he would not have any problem looking at that. I don't recall him saying, hey, I guarantee I'm going to hire this. I don't know. I mean, I don't remember that. But once you've given him that slot, you really cannot, take it away from him. And that was my issue way back then, that I thought we were moving a little bit too quickly on some of these, not only consolidation, but more the creation, because we've got some other issues that are coming into play, not just this one. We got several positions that are in question. I think that if we tell him not to interview, then we are overstepping our authority over his operation of his office. I don't think we can do that. Now, hopefully that'll be the best candidate gets hired, then that particular issue is a moot point. But we can't tell him, you said you were going to hire this. I don't know if he ever really said that. I think he just wanted the slot, and his position, I believe, of getting the slot was coming from that location. But I don't know if he ever said, I'm going to hire that position. You don't hire. Remember, you don't create people. You create the slots.
Well, but didn't we made that part of the discussion with him that we didn't want people to lose their job?
It was, but again, I've not spoken to Judge Gonzalez. I really don't know who else has about what his intentions are. But if that were the case, then he'd have no reason to be going through an interview process. He'd just do it. But I don't know if that complies with our personnel policies. I don't know. So the point is, we don't really know today if he's going to offer a position to this particular person at this time. Is that correct? And we can't, and legal get, as usual, not here, we need to figure out legally what is it we can and cannot do. I don't believe that we can instruct them to hire any particular individual, regardless of what was said out there. I mean, he could have said yes, but I don't think we can legally do that. Okay. Martha, do you have something to interject with this or no?
Yeah, the only thing that under the county's hiring policies, he's probably, going along the right way and posting the position because it's a new slot. And,
right. So he's following personnel policy.
Exactly.
That doesn't mean he's going to deviate from it. We just won't know. So at this point, this is like Commissioner Gatsa said. I mean, I think we've heard all kinds of, of stories out there, and just to air it out, because these employees need to know where they're going to be on January 1st. Now, and there's more than one involved, and these may be.
The first one.
Yeah, this is the first one, but there may be others that are going to be out until this JP 2-3 goes into place.
Can we go back and look at a consent item?
Sure. Yeah. If somebody wants to bring it back out.
Yeah, I'd like to bring one back out.
Which one is it?
I overlooked pulling it out, and I'd like to pull it out now.
Consideration approval of transferring Ana Julieta Kowalski, court interpreter, from County Court at Law 2's budget to County Court Law 3's, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, let's pull that. Do I hear a motion to pull that one out?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Benavides and by Commissioner Gatsa. All in favor to pull out. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Okay, we're pulling it out. Now what?
Table. Move the table.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to table? Now, we're doing this to table as leverage? I mean, come on.
Well, what do we, look.
No, I'm just saying,
If
I'm
going to agree on one, if there's a change in thought process as to what's going to happen with an individual who's an employee of this county, I think that, if a game wants to be played, I can do chess.
All right. Well, I got a motion to table that item by Commissioner Gatsa. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
By Commissioner Sanchez. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Okay, let's go back. Let's continue with this one then.
So I guess on that, we just
we
wait and
can't
see.
be held hostage as a court both ways, okay? We can't be held hostage to do something, and then after you do something that is wanted, I don't want to do what I was saying I was going to do.
Well, but let me ask a question, because did he, again, did he actually say, I am going to hire that person when this slot becomes available? Is that what he said?
Send me whoever you want, I just need a person.
He just wanted the slot.
He said he didn't care who, he just needed a person to help with files.
Right, he didn't care who it was. Is that what he said?
I believe that's my recollection. I mean, we probably have to pull the minutes.
You may want to pull it because, okay, so he didn't, and I just want to, just for clarity, did he specifically say, I'm going to take that person? He said, look, just give me a slot. I don't care where it comes from. That's what he said.
I think it's probably better to pull the minutes, but I believe he said he would take whoever. Didn't.
Right, but it was his choice to take whomever. Or are we going to say, you're going to take that person?
The idea...
We got 3 people here, everybody's saying, I don't know.
The idea at the time was trying to make sure that our employees
didn't lose
would not
jobs.
be impacted by losing their jobs.
Was there.
Right. Okay. Let's go back, maybe.
Judge-elect
Trejo was here when that was being discussed, and when we were talking about the actual slots that was going to be transferred, and he said this particular slot, and Judge Gonzalez, David Gonzalez, said that at that point that he would take whomever. He just needed a slot.
Right.
He needed a slot.
Right.
Okay. All right. Sally, do you have something?
I was just going to say, if it's not going to work out where the county court at law wishes to hire, the clerk
You'll take
from
her?
the JP. Absolutely. If you have two clerks that you all need to place, you can place them in the courts that are, that are in dire need of more staff, and we can, they can work with us until the Brownsville court comes open, and they'll keep their job. The irony is to keep these ladies or gentlemen employed.
But again, but you go back that you're actually, I like the concept.
It would just be a transfer to.
But what you're doing is you're giving an entering elected official no choice in whom they hire.
Absolutely.
And that's the deal. I know, but so like this new JP.
What entering elected official?
Well, you go back. If you have, for instance, when you get the 2-3 JP that come on board, who knows when, that JP, if let's say if it turns out to be Kip Hodge as an example to fill this unexpired thing, he has asked that he's willing to take some of the staff that are in 2-2, right?
But he's going to get trained staff.
Well, whatever.
And he's not elected.
No, I know that. I know that, but
and we don't even know if he's going to get the job.
I know that, but I'm saying I'm making some assumptions here. Then you've got the new JP going in that will not have the opportunity to fill her position with the people she wants, somebody who's already there. I mean, we talked about this, and I said, guys, this is going to be a problem.
But there's civil service.
Judge Trejo's coming in, and he's getting who's there. He doesn't
I'm not
get
talking
to
about
come
Judge
in.
Trejo. I'm talking about the Brownsville slot.
But anybody, any of the JPs that come in don't get to pick new staff. I mean, Judge Cano came in.
As a
and he got
former
the staff
clerk,
that was there.
my position to this is that I would hate to see any of our employees not being placed anywhere because,
right. I understand. Okay, well then, that's what we've done with this one, and I guess we need to get with Judge Gonzalez, see what he's going to do. Let's go on to the other ones, because there's more to this.
There's 3 other positions, and they're going to be transferred come January 1st, and the idea was that those slots would be transferred to Judge 2-3 court.
Right.
And those individuals.
3, so then are you saying, I thought of the 3, 1 was going to go to Judge Gonzalez? It was actually 4?
The other 3 are which slots?
It's a slot 2, JP 3-1, Constable 4, and Constable 5.
Which were the secretaries? And the other one was Judge Julian Sanchez's administrator. So there'd be an administrator position with the new court. Okay.
The new court would have 3 slots.
Right. It would be the administrator and then 2 clerks. And the 2 clerk positions were coming from the constable.
4 and 5.
Okay. Now let me ask you this. Are both of those employees wanting to come to work in the courts? Have you checked?
I have not.
Because
I know I can check. I can tell you on the 3-1 administrator, yes.
Right. No, I know the administrator does, but I'm talking about the constables because that's going to be a completely different type of work. Yes. So what might be more advantageous would be to have the slot that where you were taking from 7-1 to 3 to 2-3, and then one of the constable positions that's a clerk to the file clerk for Judge Gonzalez. I thought that's what we had done when we were shifting because it made sense to keep court personnel that have already worked in the JP courts going to work in a JP court. That's why to me it made sense to do that. Excuse me.
That is true, but you know what in essence happened was as of December 31st, these 4 positions were eliminated, and they were only funded for 3 months, and then effective January 1st, the positions were created to fill the need that was going to be there.
In the new JP's office.
In the new JP office and in the County Court at Law 3.
Right.
If you remember,
we were not transferring slots.
If I remember correctly, because of the consolidations that we did, the 3 slots, the last 3 you talked about, would have actually been eliminated completely if 3.1 hadn't been brought on when we brought right before the budget went into effect. 3.1 was an afterthought after we brought 3.1 and said, okay, we'll move these 3 over here, which would eliminate anybody from losing their jobs. Basically what you're saying, Commissioner Garza. The one would go to David Gonzalez, the other 3 would go to 3.1. The problem we've had with 3.1 at this point is we've been working very hard 2.3. 2.3, we have not been able to find a place to house them by January 1st. We're still working on the buildings back here. We're still working on space. So we don't have a place to house.
But, you know, can't we temporarily house them at the bridge? Don't we have a location
Well, we've tried that. We're working every day.
I mean, we have a location at the bridge that can be utilized to house these folks already.
Do we, Pete?
At Los Tomates Bridge.
No.
Don't we have your old ex-office there, Pete?
We have that.
And there's a conference room there?
Yeah,
I mean, couldn't we use that temporarily? Those offices are not used much.
Yeah, it would depend how we define temporarily.
Well, temporarily, I would say until the other spaces get taken. I mean, I'm hearing 3 months, 4 months.
We could also approach DPS and see if they have space on site, the board inspection facility.
You know, if they have space there also, you know, I mean, we've always said that we needed some connectivity to that location. And if we can do something, move a portable building, you know, I mean, get a mobile mini, you know, I mean, that's what everybody does. What's so difficult?
We're trying, Commissioner, we're trying to do whatever we can. We're trying to expedite this as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Any suggestions you have would be greatly appreciated.
I'm saying we need to look for space there temporarily.
Where at? I'm sorry, I was.
At the Los Tomates Bridge, either at the DPS as Pete suggested, or in the original building in an office in a conference room there to temporarily house the JP Ticket 1. You know, that's where a lot of the collections come from.
That'll increase significantly the CVE, because what happens is if you have a judge there, a lot of times the troopers are not going to want to take time to leave the station, take somebody with a warrant, and haul them downtown or to the courthouse. But if you have the judge on site, they'll take them right over to the judge, and then the deputy constable can say, okay, I'm going to take you in.
If DPS were to cooperate with us in that manner, I think that JP Sanchez and us in Los Fresnos might work with them to maybe give them an office space over there too. Is that what? So, you know, it's got to be mutual, but the sooner we get moving, the quicker we can get it done.
Commissioner, we have a meeting on the 20th. Maybe we can come up with a plan between now and the 20th so we can transfer them over as quick, you know, effective January.
Temporarily to start things going.
Yeah, just temporarily.
Pete? Yeah. And I'll keep working on this issue back here and over there. We've been working every day trying to come up with a solution.
Judge Gonzalez, by the way, I just got off the phone with him. He's coming over to clarify any issues. David Gonzalez?
Okay.
All right, why don't we go to another item then while we wait for him then?
Judge, do you have a comment?
Adam.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. Correct me if I'm wrong, you're trying to do away with one of the clerks that is currently working under my administration there. Is that correct?
That's been done
That's
already.
7-1?
That's already happened.
It's already.
It's already been done, okay. But you're going to give the advantage over 2 other secretaries that don't have a 3-year experience that are going to be going to work for a JP. It's not that easy when you first start off. I have a clerk that has 3 years experience that you're doing away with her job, and I guarantee you she is on the front line every day, meeting the public, angered people, and handling our court system. And I cannot believe that Commissioner's Court or anyone would do away with that position, an experienced clerk, and give it to someone that has no experience whatsoever.
Well, we haven't done that. I think what Commissioner Sanchez mentioned a few, and I think it was appropriate that we've got some administrative folks coming from a different arena, that being constables, to be moved into potential JP spots, and I agree with you. That's a discussion we're trying to have with Judge David Gonzalez, because there appears to be a consensus that he indicated that he would take that particular person to his courtroom. That's where we're at right now, because he had talked about doing that, and now there appears to be going through, maybe he's just following the process. But then if he's just following a process, knowing what the ultimate decision is going to be, then that's a sham. Then why go through a personnel process just to make it look good? And then ultimately you're going to do that. That goes against our personnel hiring policies.
Well, but
so let's wait for him to get.
Not necessarily, Judge, because, I mean, let's just go through that scenario. Let's say, like right now, she's a JP clerk. What she's going to be doing in his office is completely different, and that's something that he needs to go over with her. And so if she's not willing to do that or doesn't want to do that job, then he has some other people that have applied that are available. But he hasn't even discussed that with her, and that might be why he's going. So, I mean, to call it a sham without knowing.
Well, it is, because that's what we're saying. I mean, we just redid an agenda item because, well, we're going to do this because he's not.
Well, we just tabled it.
Yeah, we tabled it after it had been passed. You know, and all I'm saying is that to me it looks that way. I mean, look at. I mean, I've got no problem. I mean, you know, but then why go through the interview process and all that if we're basically telling him, you committed to hiring this person out of this slot, now you're not doing it, so we're going to go back and change some. Well, yeah, but I understand that, but that's not what we're saying. That's not what we're saying right now today.
Well, and the screw up might have been on our part, because what the judge is saying makes absolute sense, and maybe it got past me, and I apologize if it did, but to me, it would make more sense to take a JP employee clerk and put him in a JP, and that's what we were doing anyway. So
I'm not going to admit there was a screw up. What I said
was it us that when we did that, or maybe staff didn't put it the right way? I mean,
as I said, I thought we were moving a little bit too quickly on some of these things without looking at it
We had a deadline.
we had to pass the budget.
we didn't have to create all these things. All I'm saying is that, look, that's what we're here today, and I want to fix it as best that we can. I want to hear what Judge Gonzalez has to say. Maybe that wasn't his impression at all. Maybe he just thought, hey, I just wanted the slot. I didn't want so-and-so, I wanted a slot. And if, you know, I think and I just don't like to saddle an elected official coming in saying, you're going to hire this person, like you. I mean, anybody that comes in, we can't tell you, you're going to hire this person. What if it's not, you know, somebody that you want to hire for whatever reason, or maybe it's not the best qualified candidate? I don't know. So we can hold off a little bit till he gets here and then continue the discussion, and whatever it is, it is. Okay.
Let me make one comment. I do believe, and Judge Adam, I do agree that the 2.3 slot should probably have your person with the experience and the court administrator from Julian Sanchez, because that would be a wonderful way to start out with at least 2 out of your 3 people that have experience. Maybe the other one coming from wherever, but I think JP Court employees should go to JP Courts. So if there's any, you know.
Makes sense.
It makes sense. It makes, you know.
Well, and let me ask you this: is there any reason, if Judge Gonzalez agreed that we can't do that transfer, the position? Martha, there's no reason we can't, right? So basically, just change the slots, like we amend budgets every meeting.
It doesn't make any difference. I mean, if he chooses to take one of the clerks, then it's funded in his court at X amount of dollars, you know, and that's it. Because the new slots for JP 2-3 are already designated for a specific amount, and his slot is designated at X amount. He can take whichever clerk he wants out of here.
And I think that's what I'm saying, because when we took the slot out of Judge Adam Gonzalez's court, and we created 2-3, basically we took the slot from there and put it over here. It's the same pay, right?
No, there's a slight difference. The one for County Court at Law 3 is about $1,000 less.
No, right, but that's what I'm saying. The Judge Gonzalez, Adam Gonzalez, 7-1 slot is getting paid the same amount, and it's the same slot in 2-3.
That's correct. That would be correct.
3-2, you mean?
No.
2-3.
2-3, yes, 2-3.
The one that starts on 1-1.
So basically, what she's getting paid and all the job description out of 7-1 is now in 2-3.
2-3, yes.
And that's what I thought we had done, was shifted her slot from his to the new JP because it was going to be the same duties, the same pay, the same everything.
Right.
And then when I found out that she was going to Judge Gonzalez, originally we had talked about Judge Gonzalez maybe getting her because we weren't sure if we were going to create the other JP position. That hadn't come to fruition. Once we created the new JP position, then it only seemed the common sense thing to do is take the JP slot that Judge Gonzalez had for a clerk and move him to the new JP slot, right?
Yes.
So that's what I thought we had done, but I guess when the transfers were made, that wasn't done?
Well, they were budgeted at the rate that in comparison when using the other courts is what, at the rates that they're being paid, that they're being compensated. So we did not budget for physical bodies, we budgeted for slots.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's it.
So then we're not here to assume that, let's say Berta would be going from 7-1 to county court at Law 3. We could assume she's going from 7-1 to JP 2-3 as a clerk to a clerk.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And the court's assumption or agreement or intent that these people by name were going to go to these other positions is an agreement that the court had.
That was our legislative intent.
That was your intent, but, you know, we on the salary
Yeah, you
schedule,
have
we
to
put
work with
slots,
slots. We
and
work
that's
with
it.
people.
Not
The
bodies.
one advantage we have, gentlemen, is moving, of course, it was the slot. His slot was moved to 2-3, the dollar amount and the slot. Since it's not an elected position for whoever the incoming judge, the interim judge will be.
We can decide.
We can decide who, which is Julian Sanchez, the office, or whoever runs this court, that position, and Adams' position that moved over here. We can decide those two people are going to 2.3. Yeah, that's okay. That we can.
We can decide because there's no elected official.
Yeah, he cannot make that decision. He can't have the authority to make
The other thing, excuse the interruption. What does the constable's clerk get paid? What is that amount?
The constable's clerk is $18,204.
Okay, and Judge Gonzalez's clerk, David Gonzalez's clerk, will get paid what?
$23,263.
So you see, that person would be getting a raise from 18 to 22, and Berta would keep her same pay. She wouldn't lose pay. By going to Judge Gonzalez's, her pay is going to get cut. See how that doesn't make sense?
Right.
So can't we say, you know, Berta go over with Judge, whoever gets appointed, and the other slot, it'd be giving that person from the constable's office a raise. You go with Judge Gonzalez?
It makes logical sense.
And that's what I thought that we had done. Well, Judge Gonzalez is here. Maybe we can hear from him.
Yeah, let's hear. I hope your ears have been burning there.
Little birdie told me that this was going on.
It was a big bird. It was a big bird, I'm sure.
What is it that you'd like to know? Obviously, I'll take whatever direction Commissioner's Court gives me. From what I recall, the primary concern was to have an employee. When I thought that what commissioners had, the directive or the information, the prerogative that the commissioners had given me was to go ahead and choose the employee. So I thought what I was going to be doing was opening it up and hiring the best qualified applicants. I don't know who these other people are. If it is a transfer, I understand how Commissioners Court works. I understand that and respect that. But they are slightly different duties, and so I was just trying to follow what the employee policies are.
I think the issue was that there appears to be a consensus from the court that what you'd indicated was that you would take the slot and you would take the person that filled that slot into your office, and that's, I don't know, I don't really recall. But again, that's where we're at. I think there's some confusion now because you're going through an interview.
The whole idea was that we did not get rid of people from their current jobs in creating a new slot in your system.
Okay.
Okay? I mean, the consensus, as I recall, was that you would take one of the individuals that was being displaced because of the realignment of the JP offices, and that individual would go into your office and do what you needed done.
Okay.
You know,
I'm
and the whole intent, we don't want to tell these folks, December 6th, you're going to be out of the job on the 1st when the intent is to
I understand that
transfer.
perfectly. I just didn't understand that was your intent when I left the last meeting.
I guess you close the interview process.
My understanding at the last meeting was that I thought that at least a couple of you all had said that I should be able to choose that employee, which to me meant I needed to hire the best qualified individual. But if this is a salary transfer, or this is a slot transfer, I understand how Commissioners Court works. I mean,
Well, that's where we're at.
okay. Well, then
That's where we're at.
I guess you let me know who it is, and I'll work with whomever you decide.
And there's 2 individuals that you could possibly look at, right?
Right, and there's 2 constable. This is what happened, Judge. We've got a JP administrator that we moved from San Benito to Brownsville, the new JP court. Then we have a JP clerk that's out with Judge Adam Gonzalez. Before we had known for sure we were creating a JP slot, we knew that you wanted a clerk. We knew that they had 4 clerks over there, so we went and we found a slot for you being one of those 4 clerks. One of our concerns was we don't want anyone to lose their job if possible. We felt that your position was, hey, I just want somebody to help because we have too much work. So we thought it would work. As that transpired and moved forward, what ended up happening is we created another JP position in Brownsville. When that happened, what makes the most sense is take a JP clerk that's experienced and put him in another JP office in Brownsville, which means the slot that you were going to get now can come from one of 2 places. 4 constable precincts that we had were merged to create 2. So that left 2 extra constable secretaries or assistants that their slot was going to come open. So now the idea would be those people were making about $18,000 a year. To give them a clerk position with you would be to give them like a $5,000 raise. To take Berta, who's a JP clerk, and put her with you would be to give her a demotion and cut her pay.
I'd have concerns with that.
Right. So to me, it makes more sense to take Berta's slot and move her to the new JP court, clerk to clerk. You already have experience. You know how to do the job. And then give you one of the other 2, or ask you to consider one of those other 2 employees that are coming from the constable's office.
And there's 2 there.
Okay, well, certainly whatever you all decide.
Okay, but keep in mind what we just said.
Yeah.
What they just said. Ask you to consider.
Right now.
So we're back to the same level that we're asking you to consider
We're
them.
being diplomatic.
Yeah, not to hire. Well, that's how we got into problems the last time because I don't think we were specific enough.
I would strongly encourage you to, out of the 2 individuals that you're looking at, to, have one, because otherwise that
If they're
person
qualified.
is out of a job. If they're qualified.
I would assume that they are qualified, but I was trying not to go awry of the employee guidelines, and I wanted to make sure that it was opened up properly and that they were interviewed properly and that qualifications were measured in a qualitative manner. I mean, I certainly don't want somebody that doesn't want the job or is just doing it to get a paycheck or anything like that. Not that that's occurring, but I would prefer to have somebody that's experienced, that wants the job, and is excited.
Well,
to
I guess what the court's telling you, go through the interview process, but interview just these people and don't go outside the population because you're the 3 that we got to hire one of these folks.
Okay, I never knew who these people were, so I've never been informed who I should be interviewing.
Well, and just strongly keep in mind that we're trying for people to not be given in 24 days you're out of a job type thing.
Okay. I guess what I need from you, I need to know who these people are.
Yeah, exactly. We need to tell him exactly what this court is telling him to do.
Javier can tell us.
What we should probably do, or the court should probably do, is actually direct, this is more of an HR issue, direct HR to contact these 2 individuals and see if they're interested in applying for that position, because I doubt that they have applied for it, so they can go through that process, and that they're aware that as of December 31st, there's no position for them to go to, and I don't know that they know, or their intent was that they were going to come to Brownsville to work or not. I have no idea if they were in agreement to do that or not.
Because these employees right now are in Harlingen and Rio Hondo.
Right, correct.
Could you tell me what Julian Sanchez's court number is?
Right
now.
3-1.
Right now it's 3-1. Okay. Then, can we agree as a commission vote on that position in 7-1 goes to 2-3, and the position in 3-1, the court administrator, goes to 2-3, at least settle.
I don't think we need to vote on it. I think
Well,
that
I think
just needs
it-
to happen.
Well, what you will need to do, because
Yeah, we
since-
kind of do.
We have to approve a transfer of slots,
Correct,
right?
because there's no elected official overseeing that department, so
Pete?
effective January, no, 2-3, effective January 1st, it's under the direction of the Commissioners
Well-
Court. And so the court would decide if
Well, can
if
we
they
do that?
decided who would go into those slots.
Can that be done on this agenda item, legal? I mean, I like your idea, Ernie, because I don't want to keep these folks in suspense,
You're in limbo,
you know?
and then we got to come up with a place by January 1st. My question was this, Bruce.
Yes, sir.
Can we vote as a commission to move slot?
Well, the individuals.
7.1.
Individuals.
Yeah, you're transferring the slots are already there.
2.3. What?
The slots are already there. You're
Okay,
just going to transfer the individuals.
In that slot, in 7.1 now, to the open slot in 2.3, and the slot in 3.1 to the new slot in 2.3, which is the court administrator. Can we vote on that?
Well, I don't know that we have a need to do that, if I understand what Javier is saying, that those slots are already there.
Yeah, but we don't have an elected official to make that decision as to who.
Well, you know what, I've heard you all talk about that this morning, and it's true. There's not going to be an elected official. There is going to be a judge who fills an official position. Have you looked into it?
At this point, they haven't appointed anyone to fill that position. So it's under no one's direction at this point other than Commissioner's Court.
Okay, well, what, I would like to be able to look at that issue specifically to be sure we know what we're doing here.
I guess.
But otherwise.
My concern is, Bruce,
Yes,
that
sir.
we don't leave people in limbo.
No, I
25
totally
days.
understand that, yeah.
And the two constable positions that are going to close, make sure they get over to interview with Judge Gonzalez in the very near future, so he can come up with a decision
Right.
also.
There's a lot of things here, I think, that can be done by agreement, if everybody is in agreement here. I think Judge Gonzalez makes the good point here about following our personnel policy. Because that policy is there, and I don't know why it would not apply in this scenario. The only other thing I would have to say is whatever solution we come up with here, we must be mindful that there are civil service covered employees here. Now, as a practical matter, the ones that have been downsized, are not, or should not technically legally be of concern because they've been downsized, as much as we don't like that aspect of it.
My position, and I would feel most comfortable, I understand the position that you all are in, and I understand your role in county government. I would prefer that you just let HR handle. To me, I do feel this is a human resources issue. Just let them know what you want me to do, and I'll be glad to go ahead and do what HR suggests. If I'm only selecting from a smaller pool, then I'll select from a smaller pool. If I even have the opportunity to select. If I don't have the opportunity to select, just let me know what I need to do. My greatest concern is just to have that slot filled.
Okay. HR?
Yes. Going back to the item on Commissioner Hernandez, we'll just add an item on next meeting's agenda to transfer the slots.
Those are the personnel, we already have the slots.
Right, exactly. But we'll word it, we'll get.
Now, this also assumes that they want to move over here. We're assuming that the lady from San Benito would like to come and work 2-3, and the lady from La Feria area.
Well, they're here. They're here. Both of them are here, so.
Well, is that agreeable? Okay, it's a done deal. Yeah, that's fine.
We'll add an agenda item for that particular.
Okay. Now the issue will be to try to get housing or somewhere by January 1st. Otherwise, we have an interruption.
Pete's going to take care of that.
Yeah, we'll get the space, the temporary space ready at the bridge. So if the court wishes, they can consider appointing a JP at the next regular meeting.
That'd be fine.
We'll set up an item for the next meeting.
Okay.
Bruce, can you do that?
I'm sorry, I was talking to Dilbia. What was it?
An agenda item to appoint the JP
Oh, yeah, sure.
For the interim, till the next primary.
Yes, exactly, you bet. For 2-3.
I actually have a docket right now. Do you all need me for anything else? If not, I'll expect to hear either from HR or directly from one of you all to let me know what direction to follow.
Consider an item before he leaves.
Why am I not surprised?
Item I.
Your item passed, then it came back, it was tabled, now it looks like it's coming back.
Make a motion that.
I second that.
Notice I was consistent with the vote,
We have
okay?
to untable, do we have to untable first? Or?
Judge.
Move to a motion to untable item I.
So moved.
And approve.
By Commissioner Hernandez, second by Commissioner Gatsa. Do I hear a motion to approve item I?
So moved.
By Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Benavides. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries.
Thank you, and I apologize for the confusion.
Judge, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. I know you're busy. Yes.
I felt like being in the movie Ransom.
Thanks, David.
All right. Thanks, David.
See how misunderstandings can just escalate?
Yeah, I love it. Canvassing of precinct election recount returns. Roger?
Do we need to acknowledge the discussion or not?
Yeah, I guess so.
Did we?
To acknowledge the discussion and take into consideration
This is on item E.
E.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hernandez. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, item carries. Item F, canvassing of precinct election recount returns.
Roger. Thank you.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners.
Morning.
This is the canvass report for you from the recount conducted November 27, 2012 for the Constable Precinct 1 election. What I did is I got the numbers received from the recount, put them together for you in the first page after the cover page shows you the candidates and the total votes for each candidate. With Pedro Pete Delgadillo, 2486, and Mr. Horacio Zamora, 2479. Following after that gives you by precinct total, and the total amount again at the bottom.
Roger, just a question, because this arose, after that recount, there was and I think we make a lot of assumptions, and one of them is that the numbers on election day are the accurate number. In this particular case, the recall showed 40 votes difference between the election day count and the recount vote. And we had we had at least a couple of conversations with the Secretary of State's office regarding that, and what they had been, we were at a call with the candidates, as a matter of fact, and what they indicated was that the recount is an independent count. It's not meant to match up the numbers between that count and the election day count. It's a standalone count, and that's the one that ultimately prevails, unless there's an election contest and then it flips around, correct?
Right.
So did you, when the final numbers were in, and there was, I think Constable Zamora lost 25 votes, and then Mr. Delgadillo lost 15 votes, which was the 40 votes. At the end of the day, Mr. Delgadillo prevailed by 7 votes. Was there any attempt or effort to be made as to where those 40 votes went from election day to the recount day? Let me further it. Did anybody look at the ballots that were sent over to Santa Maria for their recount, or BISD for their recount, where there may have been or could have been a county ballot related to that precinct that went over there?
Okay, I know that the ones that went to Santa Maria were done first here, and then we sent those at noon to Santa Maria, so those were looked at.
Okay, so no one over there said, "Hey, we found a county ballot."
And those were the early votes and the provisional votes, and the reason those were sent over there is because they're all mixed up in that in the provisional box. You have all the provisional votes in there, and in the mail-ins you have all the provisional votes in there too. I mean, all the votes in there that pertain to all the elections that were being held on that day. And that's why those boxes had to be sent over there for them to look at. The other ones were the joint election ballots. The joint election ballots were all together, and the general elections were separate. And so that's why you don't go into, or we didn't go into the joint election boxes, because as a matter of fact, we did in one of them. We had it there, and it opened, and there was no ballots for the general election.
Is there anything in the election code that talks about the recount when you do have you had 5,000 and some odd ballots that were cast on election day, everything on election day, right, in that particular race, and then on the recount it was 40 votes less. Is there anything that you know of in the election code that calls for either the recount committee or somebody to try to reconcile that number to why we're missing 40 votes? Is there anything in the election code that says that?
I don't know of anything in the election code.
Okay, so was any attempt made to try to find those 40 votes as to how that could have happened?
During that night, during the recount, I was there as guardian of the ballots and making sure that everything went back to the warehouse where it's kept and locked.
Election night?
The election night. Okay. No, that's on that recount.
Okay.
We were there.
But that was after the 40 votes were already figured out they were missing.
How can you explain how 40 votes get lost?
I can't, because we don't know that they got lost. We may know there's various things that could happen during that night. Some of those votes, they have to be sorted out, Commissioner, because during early voting.
An election day, we had 5,005 votes reported for the constable's race. And now for canvassing, we have 4,965 votes. You know, on election night, you did not count the mail-in ballots, military ballots that had come in, right?
The late military ballots were not counted.
We're not counting.
Correct.
Okay. Provisional ballots, how many provisional ballots in that particular race after election night were added to the total?
Right off the bat, I couldn't tell you.
Well,
but
a handful?
Probably 5.
Maybe
3.
5?
There were provisional votes. I think there were 3 provisional votes.
Okay.
But I'm not,
yeah, but even if it was 1, you had some late mail-ins from the military folks.
From the overseas.
That increased the numbers.
Yeah.
Which means it could only go up, not down.
The 5,005 should only go up, not go down. How is that explained?
And it did. It went up. It went up to 25, I think it was 2501 and 2504, instead of what originally came up to 2500 and 2501.
Yeah, I remember that election night. I think the Constable Samora won by 1 vote.
But you're asking me to canvass less votes than were counted on election day.
That's what was given to me on recount night.
Yeah.
Recount night. At that time, I was asked.
But how can they lose? How can you lose votes?
Like I said, you have early voting. In early voting, you have people voting at every location for all the candidates,
right,
for all the races. So you have to go in there and sort them out.
Well, that's
you have the teams.
Job,
You have the teams.
Can we order a recount instead of canvassing this?
No.
Legal?
No.
Can we order an investigation to find those missing votes?
I mean,
no.
So
can we deny canvassing this?
You have a ministerial duty to accept this canvass. You
have to do that.
We don't have to, or we do?
You do.
The question is
ministerial duty to accept this canvass.
The questions that you're asking is why I preface my comments. We called the Secretary of State that morning with Constable Zamora there and Mr. Delgadillo there the day after, or that same day or 8 hours later of the recount, asked those specific questions, and they were very specific. We're making an assumption that the election day vote was the accurate vote, and they're saying you can't make that assumption. That number could have been wrong. You don't know. The recount number is supposed to be the final number. The only option left at this point is that obviously Mr. Zamora can file an election contest in district court, and the judge can order another recount.
Well, let me ask.
But that'd be up to him
Let me
or
ask you
her.
one more question in that regard. The 40 votes that were lost in this election, were they early votes or were they election day votes?
You can't tell, Commissioner. You can't
What
tell.
do
The
you
only
mean
thing you
can't
can
tell?
assume, what you can
Look,
tell is
of course
that,
you can tell. You know, you have early votes are counted separately from election day votes.
correct,
So when the recount occurred,
right,
okay, you can look at the number of election day votes
right.
for each candidate. Did that change from election day?
We did not get a chance to separate all the election votes and early voting and sort them all
So
out by
you-
that because.
You clumped them
Hold on,
together?
Hold on. Let me explain this, okay? Because that night, we were working on it and we got the totals of everything. The totals came out with 2486 and 2479. At that time, I was asked, you know, what can we do? We hadn't adjourned yet. It was there. We were all there. What can we do? My suggestion was, well, right now you can open the boxes. You can open the boxes and look to see.
But they were already
maybe-
sealed, though.
They were already sealed.
Right.
Yeah.
And once you seal them,
Well, they were already sealed, but we were there at that night. And I suggested that's the only thing I can think of we can do right now, is go back and verify that the
But
tally sheets
election
were
day
correct.
boxes are separate from the early vote boxes.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, so why can't you tell me how election day votes differed from the recount to election day?
Because I don't have the tally sheets. The tally sheets were sealed. Yeah, Judge?
the way, look, to make it simple, you can tell. You can go back and look at that big summary that you gave us, the first canvassing, it's got it by precinct and the number. You can go back and then and look, but you haven't done that. You can go back, even if you can do it, makes no difference at this point without an election contest. But you go back and then you can go, most of the precincts were accurate. There were some that I saw, there were some up and some down between between the election day vote for that particular precinct. Remember, what I did was 6 precincts. There
Six
were some
precincts
changes
only.
there. Okay, and you could tell where they were. But the only way to go and figure out
Was it early
why,
or election day?
I don't remember, 'cause on the recount, we didn't break it down by
It
early
wasn't
vote.
No, the
I
recount
have-
wasn't broken down, and that's why we can't separate them like that.
Right.
Because if we go to the tally sheets themselves, if we open that box and unseal it, and go to those tally sheets, where those tally sheets had notations on there. Most of those tally sheets would have a notation opened up election day or early voting or something like that, and it will have a notation with the tally sheets that we got, or the recount supervisor got there at the location. And so those were all put together, and the judge was there for most of the day until about 3 or 4 o'clock, and he was keeping all of those tally sheets together. So, and he was reviewing those, and we had Mr. Saguira there as the chair of the recount. And so I was there all of the day, all the time that they were open. I was
You
there.
might want to explain at the end of the day, because it's a long process. It's very.
You weren't there at the end of the day, though.
No, I wasn't there at midnight, but I left around 4 o'clock. And what ended up happening after all the tally sheets were done, it was that you and Tony did in front of everybody, nothing behind a closed door.
Tony was calling out the numbers.
And they ran
they
a
had-
calculator tape twice. As a matter of fact, even in my office that day, much of the chagrin of one of the party chairs that was there, I let them, hey, let's add these back up, and the numbers were what they are. The numbers are what they are. So if there was an error that was made, it did not like in my race where it was done at the tally sheet level. It would have been done at the recount level, because the tally sheets were counted as what was presented from the recounters.
Correct.
Now, keep in mind that there was a minimum of 5 people to every table. There was a poll watcher from each camp, some more than one, and there was members of each party counting back and forth, and some people were really doing a good job of showing the ballot, this is what it is, and this is how they were counting. So my issue is not so much what happened on the recount day. My issue is how did we, but again, we're making an assumption that the election day vote was accurate. And what the Secretary of State is telling us is no, the number is the recount. The only option right now, and then you can't go back, oh, you know what, there's a difference of 8 votes within this precinct. As I understand it, by law, you cannot go back in there and open up just that box and count it, because they've already been sealed.
I have one question, though, Roger. When anybody goes in there to vote, you got to sign your name.
Right.
Right? So when you add up everybody that signed their name to vote, what is that number?
But that number you can't compare with the number of votes that were,
'cause there's
that were
no
out there
votes.
because there was a lot of overvotes and undervotes. Overvotes, I mean people that voted for each candidate in every race or in that race. Undervotes means that they didn't vote at all in that race. And so you cannot take that count and compare it to the number of votes.
Well, I understand, but what was the total number of people that voted? Do you know?
In that particular...
In that race?
Hold on, let me see if I have something.
Yeah. Talking about people that actually signed, but just because they signed in does
Doesn't
not
mean they
that they
voted
voted.
for that. I understand.
I mean, they
I'm
voted in
just-
that race at all.
I'm just wanting to know what that
No,
number
it's a good
was.
point. It's a good point.
Well, I just know that I had a lot of people come in and tell me that they voted for Obama, and they thought they were voting for all of the Democratic candidates. You know?
Go figure.
And I had people that said they voted for Romney, and they thought they were voting
For all the
No,
Republicans.
you gotta do the straight on the top,
Right.
not the...
And then we had a lot of them that had straight and then go off and counter it with something else.
Filled in another
Yeah,
one and knocked
yeah.
off the straight vote.
Yes. Well, it knocked off the straight for that person.
Right.
The only avenue is I've been able to see, and in speaking with, looking at the election code and talking to the SOS, is that the only option at this point is that an election contest can be filed. And there's still time. There's another couple of weeks to do that. And the cost is minimal.
Commissioner Garza, on that, the second page, if you look at your second page there, well, after the cover sheet, you have then the recount tally totals, and then you have a page that breaks it down. You've got 5,277 voters. It's broken down there. There's 10,288 voters that were registered at that time, and 5,277 votes that were the ballots were cast.
Right, and how did, but that number differs from election day, right? Ballots cast.
No, this is the same thing as election day. Nothing changes. From
So-
election day to a recount, nothing changes.
So ballots cast for that race, or is
This is
it
what was canvassed.
5277? How is that different from election day?
It doesn't differ with the exception, from election day, the only difference would be the provisional votes that were counted and any mail-ins that came from overseas.
So where are the 40 votes?
The 40 votes have nothing to do with these ballots cast. The 40 votes have to do with the number of ballots that were pulled out on the recount and sorted out. My only assumption is that it comes from the early voting, where you have all of those ballots mixed in for all of the precincts in the county.
So, that,
So right
you're telling
here-
me that they might have not pulled out 40 ballots?
That's only a possibility,
But
Commissioner.
if that, well, it's gotta be a reality,
Yeah, and that's
not
the
a
only thing, that's the
possibility.
closest thing that I can think of could have happened, that during the early voting, sorting of the ballots, that some of those ballots may have been missed.
I mean,
And
if-
not
In the
sorted
recount,
out.
You didn't go back to those?
You can't go back to them. After you seal
No,
the
that's
boxes
law.
and finish up the recount, you can't recount.
But how are you able to determine then that of those 40 missing votes, 25 were Zamoras and 15 were Delgadillos?
Judge was doing that comparison on the number of votes that are
Yeah,
are
all
here
I
now.
did was take the numbers on the recount versus the numbers on election day, and it showed that. I mean, it showed 15 lost and 25 lost, and everybody was there. We looked at those numbers.
Because if those numbers are right, then you have to have a new election.
No, well, that's not what the code says. I mean, all I'm saying is that at this point, based on the way the code is written, and legal's here to correct it, the only option is for someone to file an election contest to see if they could find those 40 votes. That's the only way to do it at this point. And Mike, I think the Secretary of State told us, if you all want to go in and open up those boxes, go ahead, but you are, what's the word she used? You are guilty of a misdemeanor. That was her word. So if y'all want to do it, you go ahead, but you're guilty of a misdemeanor. And I said, well, we're not going to do that. That's the way the code was written. I mean, I was trying to get them to see if we could do something else, but once they seal them, you can't seal them. The only option is for the constable to do that at this point.
Right. So
But I asked the same question. I mean, I don't know, where the 40 votes are.
Judge, I apologize. I've got to go. I've got to be somewhere.
Where are you going?
I've got to go down the street.
For what?
You gotta do...
I've got a meeting with Judge Tagle, so I have to go.
Okay, bye.
When you're not there, you go to jail.
Missing you already. All right.
Yeah, so
Well, you found 77 in your race?
Yeah,
You
but
lost 40 on this one?
but my error was at going. The tally sheets were right. It was I didn't find them. They didn't give them to me.
Yeah, but they were found.
Well, they did not make it to the summary sheet.
Right. So,
In these, everything that was there made it to the summary sheets.
That's correct.
So whatever happened, happened. I still think that it's possible that one of those ballots, there ended up in a BISD box somewhere. And they just saw it and they just, I mean, there was, you're talking about 40 some odd thousand ballots. That's where I think. But again, we're making an assumption that the election day number was accurate and correct. According to the code, they're saying that doesn't mean that. You're not.
99.9% of people that vote on election day live by that assumption.
I'm just telling you what the
You
code
know,
says, yeah.
I mean, there's few
No, I know.
contested cases like
Right.
this, okay?
I think if you figure how many races we had in Cameron County, there was, I don't know, 30, 40 of them, 25 of them, and we had 3 that were decided by under a handful of votes. I mean, these races are getting tighter and tighter. But again, I advise Constable Zamora that, you know, that is his option to do, and there was enough eyes there that, you know, that I just don't think anything happened at that point during the recount. Something happened somewhere,
I'm not
but
saying
I don't know
it
where.
happened during the recount, but
It happened
40 votes
somewhere,
lost.
yeah.
Yeah, see, and this time, Commissioner, I told the judge directly, I don't want to wear that hat because of the last time what happened. So this time we had the county judge there as the recount coordinator, and we had Tony Seguera as the chair of that
Yeah,
recount.
but the
And
hat
so-
you wore, Roger, was the hat of keeping the
The
integrity
custodian.
of every ballot that
Right.
people
I was-
used. It was under your authority to safeguard every single vote
That's
that
correct.
people made.
That's correct. And
Okay?
they've safeguarded, and I can assure you right now, if you go
Well,
back in there,
you
you
can
can see,
assure me
find
that 40
every ballot
votes-
is there.
You can assure me that 40 votes were lost.
Somehow during the process of the
Somehow
recount,
during the process, 40 votes were lost. There's 40 people in a race that is being decided by
yes,
a few
Commissioner, but
votes.
that is not my, I mean, you can't blame that on me that 40 votes got lost. It got lost is something that, you know, another term could be used. I'm saying that during the recount, and this is my best assumption for this incident here. During the recount, some of those ballots that were being sorted out were missed. That's where I think those 40 votes are.
Again, it's your responsibility as elections administrator to safeguard every ballot that comes in on election day or early vote or is mailed in and brought to your office.
Correct.
That's it.
Yeah, and
You're right.
the downside to that, though, is that you really don't know that you're short till it's over, and you've sealed everything up, and you start your adding up. You don't know that there's 40 votes. You don't know that at the time.
That's correct.
And that's the problem. I think that the election code needs to be revised, and it's an old code. It needs to be revised to give us, you know, if you find a blatant error, give us the authority to go back and do a second recount without having to go through an election contest, which puts a burden on everybody. But that's not the way the code is written today.
Judge, let me mention, if you will recall, we had a second recount in the Costco's Wood election.
There was of the tally sheets, not of the ballots.
And so there is that availability, but I think the confusion here is that the way the law is structured, it does not presume that the election day results are 100% accurate.
That's correct.
What it says is those are the ones that get canvassed, okay? And unless the commissioners, in going through tally sheets or summaries, see some sort of a clerical error, if that happens, then they can refer that back to the election judge in a precinct or something and have a formal correction made in that canvassing process. But here there's not a clerical error. What's happening is we now have a recount result, which is the official result once it's canvassed, and the ministerial duty of this body is to accept that canvass. It's not like you're approving that as the final say in the sense that you're guaranteeing everybody that it's 100% accurate. It's just that you're following the legal procedure that is prescribed by the legislature to have a result. And then there is a subsequent remedy that may or may be invoked by the losing candidate. So just so that that we're clear here, this is not a matter of vouching for the recount process itself or the election day process. It's a matter of simply doing a ministerial task of putting an election result now into a canvas so that other legal remedies can be made available to the losing candidates. And so, you know, it would appear, looking at the scheme, that the legislature understands that this kind of thing is going to happen from time to time. It may not be satisfactorily explained in the election result itself and in the canvas for that, and then the recount in the canvas for that, but it assumes and does give remedies to the losing candidate who follow the procedure. Unfortunately, this body is not really in a position to do anything more than catch a clerical error and returning to an election judge, or in the recount situation.
That sure is a long explanation.
Say again? Well, you know, I mean, I just wanted to try to clarify, you know, because, you know, I don't want people out there to think that somehow this body itself is responsible for guaranteeing the accurate outcome of an election, because that's, you really can't do that. I know that it's obvious that you're very concerned about that.
I think it's very obvious that this body gets all the blame for all the issues related to elections, okay? I mean, we had, well, no, we had the parade of people, yeah, but everybody assumes that we hire and fire the elections administrator, and that is not the way things are.
That's not the way it works.
Okay? And as a result of that, you know, people look to this court to help maintain integrity in the electoral process.
Well, and
I think they should.
I think that's a reasonable expectation to help, but the responsibility for that is falls under the law on very specific individuals. If you want to, you know, take apart the recount, the people sitting at that table when they count that are responsible for properly counting those votes. You know, the watchers are responsible to watch to see that nobody makes a mistake.
Well, let's bring this to a closure, because, you know, there's a lot of discussion. All I can tell you is that Roger did not pick, nor did I pick, the recount people. That was supplied by each candidate. The poll watchers were supplied by each candidate, and it was their people that were there watching, and their responsibility to watch. But again, let's wrap it up, and you know, we just have a lot to do. But I guess Mr. Zamora knows exactly what his options are and how he chooses to do it. That's up to him. If I were him, I'd probably do it. Want to know what happened, but that's neither here nor there. So I need a motion to administratively canvass the recount of the November election. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
By Commissioner Hernandez. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Any item carries strictly for administrative purposes.
I wish to abstain from the vote because I think that there's issues with it. I will not vote against it because I don't want to not perform a ministerial duty that might put me in jail over the holidays. So my abstention, you know, but I think I've voiced my concerns. I have issues with it. I think I've voiced my concerns at least for the last 12 years, and I've had the opportunity to run 8 times. And I wish that I could say that every time I've run, it's been a good experience. But I will tell you today that every election, and it's not the electorate or the voters, the only problem I've ever had is with the Elections Administration Office.
No elections are happy, quite frankly. So
you know,
they're all very stressful. Okay.
Judge, I'd like to, I had just written a note to Dilbia asking her at this point, since we were told that we had a ministerial duty to canvass the election results, if I could abstain.
We can pass. Good pass.
Yeah, I can. I feel like Commissioner Garza, you know, I can see, you know, gaining a vote. I cannot see losing. And so for this reason, I'm going to
Okay, please note the 202. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, carries. Item G, consideration authorization for payment from Cameron County to Scott Rowland for local share. David?
Judge, Commissioners, this is an item that we put on the agenda back in 2006, I guess, when we had Hurricane Dolly. The county entered into an agreement with Mr. Rowland.
David, just real simple. Do we have a contract?
Yes.
Do we owe the money?
Yes.
Then why can't we pay it?
And that's why this is on the agenda.
I mean, it's a claim. I mean, it's not even a claim. It's a.
Why haven't we paid?
Yeah, it's a
Well, we
contractual
haven't paid it
obligation.
because it's going through the process with FEMA.
Okay, well then,
FEMA has already paid their.
are we ready to pay?
FEMA will not pay Mr. Rowland the remainder amount of funds.
Right.
Until we pay him.
Well, my question is it a legitimate claim that we have?
Yes.
Or that he has, yes? Do I hear a motion to authorize?
I do have a question.
Okay.
Is this all of the invoices that were submitted to us for payment? I mean, in this agenda item, is everything that Mr. Rowland submitted to you here?
Should be, yes.
I'm not sure, but what we do know is that FEMA, again, has gone through all the paperwork that was submitted to them. They've gone through 2 different audits, and they have approved all invoicing for payment.
For that amount?
Right.
For the
I'm not
400?
sure what's in the backup. Is everything? Probably not.
No, the backup's not here,
Yeah.
but FEMA has already
Yes.
approved the, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we owe him the money. I hear a motion to approve by Commissioner Garza.
We just need
this item
we just
budgeted?
need
Do
to
we have
find
it
a way to,
about,
yeah, we just need a direction on where that money's gonna come from.
Public Works.
Road and Bridge.
That's where it comes from.
Right.
It's
Can we have-
$100,000 less in materials.
Can we have that motion as well?
Okay, I had a motion by Commissioner Garza, second by Commissioner Hernandez to pay out of Public Works. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Item H, discussion and possible action on Cameron County implementing beach safety program.
Judge, Commissioners, I handed out an updated plan, a draft, and I also emailed it a few days ago. The information is the same. The only thing that I added was I made some corrections to the table as far as the estimated expenses and as far as I added the estimated funding.
So this one is the correct one?
Yes, sir. If you see on the page 6, the estimated expenses total $504,652.89. Our estimated funding by the $1, adding the $1 to the access they use, would come up to $437,581. Now, keep in mind that these were historical numbers from last year. We had a real good year last year. We didn't have no storms, no red tide, and so on. So we're short about $70,000. Now, the other thing that I want you all to keep in mind is that this is a startup cost. There's some costs in here that we will not have to pay next year, equipment and so on. It'll just be salaries that we would be the reoccurring costs. I worked with Galveston Beach Patrol to kind of get this proposal together. They made some comments, but it's just administrative comments as far as training.
As far as
hours.
equipment cost, can't you use your not capital, but your
Fund balance?
No, not fund balance. What is that account? Equipment account. What capital improvements account? I mean,
it could be. I mean, we could
just so that
tie it in. We checked. I checked with Bruce on the liability aspect and Juan, and they sent me some information as far as the liability. They mentioned to me that the only way it would be liable and they would be able to, of course, have a good stronghold as far as suing us would be if there was any gross negligence. Other than that, we would.
Which we would be liable now with the city of South Padre if there was gross negligence, because we contracted them, right?
Right.
It wouldn't be any different.
secondary contractor. I understand from Bruce is that they would take up the entire liability if that were to occur.
Your policy is just stipulate that.
Yeah.
They assume all legal.
Yeah, but you know, they're gonna always include us.
Now, the contract we have with the city is to guard Isla Blanca and Andy Bowie. Our contract for this coming year is $247,000. My estimate would be just a little bit over $200,000, excluding a beach patrol. And South Padre Island does include a beach patrol as part of their contract. In the very back is, of course, I show some aerial photos with where we would place the lifeguard stands. One of the issues we're going to have is that beach access 5 and 6. It's going to be very tough for us to put lifeguard stands there because of the width of the beach, the way that the traffic stacks up there. So there we'd have to have a beach patrol.
Well, you could utilize a rolling platform versus a statutory platform too. Where one that could be moved on to, you know, this, you know, the narrow beach area during the hours of operation and then just push back when it's not operable.
Mm-hmm. Well, but what happens is that we would have to clear more of the beach so that people can park. Because what happens is they drive, they try to get onto this as far as they can on the soft sand, and then they leave an area for two-way traffic. Right. Well, it's barely enough for two-way traffic, so we wouldn't be able to put the stand in the water. So,
right by the edge.
And we wouldn't be able to put it on the other side because when they respond, they would be crossing traffic. So. My thought was that we'd do a mobile patrol or a beach patrol where you would have somebody in a vehicle or an ATV driving up in that 3-mile stretch guarding that area.
I have a question. If we were to go along with this program, who would they answer to? Who was going to be on top of things?
Well,
make sure that...
What I put in here was a full-time supervisor. We would have to hire somebody to oversee, do the training.
Scheduling.
Right, everything. So they would answer that to that supervisor. That would be a full-time, that would be year-round. And then the rest would be part-time positions. Now, I also included here as a part-time supervisor during the operation of the project or the program. So we'd have 2 supervisors during the peak time.
During the 30-week period that you're utilizing?
Yes, sir. And what I did was, you see there's a difference. We have 26 weeks and we have the 30 weeks. And the reason I did that was because I want to start the beach patrol program 4 weeks before, which would be the beginning of spring break. And then the lifeguards would start in April. So it would run April through September.
What's court's wishes?
I think we need to do a little bit more discussing.
Okay, you want to table it for the next meeting? Do I hear a motion to table to the next meeting by Commissioner Benavides?
And encourage everyone, second, to visit with
Second by
Javier.
Commissioner Gatsa. Okay, bring it back.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor, someone by saying aye. Any opposed, carries.
But
Item
I
I.
think it's I think it's time that we do this. You know, we need to make sure.
Item I, consideration approval of a resolution of the Commissioners Court of the County of Cameron adopting guidelines and criteria concerning Chapter 381 Tax Abatement Agreement. Hey, Frank.
Judge and Commissioners, I had previously routed a draft copy of the policies to the court, and since that time we have incorporated some more changes. In particular, we added a point system that we've had in other policies for other zones. But I'll just give you a couple of highlights, and then after that I'll try to answer any questions. the policies are now in resolution format because that's required by law. We added the point system, as I indicated. That point system is what we've been using in other enterprise zones, except that now these policies will apply countywide. We did tweak the factors that we use to calculate points. In previous policies for zone-specific areas like the Harlingen Industrial Park, one of the factors that we had was number of bridge crossings, southbound bridge crossings. Another factor was net public donations like right-of-way easements. We've taken those out, and instead, what we're using is temporary or construction jobs and building permit revenue. That fits what is being proposed in the tax abatement agreement that came before us that triggered these changes. Also, it makes more sense to look at these kinds of factors county-wide as opposed to the other factors that were zone-specific. We had this discussion before, but in these policies, we're still targeting manufacturing or industrial projects, but the policies indicate that the court can consider other types of activities on a case-by-case basis. We also made it clear in the policies that we will not offer tax abatement to a company that's relocating from one part of the county to another. And just so that the court knows, as per state law, your policies, once adopted, are good for 2 years, and they can only be amended or repealed by a three-fourths vote of Commissioners Court. That's also
So basically, a three-fourths vote.
Four out of
is
five.
4 out of, yeah, supermajority.
Right.
Okay.
And that is part of state law.
All right.
You know, the only other thing, and maybe it is not of consequence, and I meant to call you, I'm sorry, Frank, that I did not, was, is there any, and I don't want to delay action on this, but I guess we could amend it later to allow for a company to come in and, or allow points for a company to come in and rehab an area that is underdeveloped or underused. For example, we have some buildings in Brownsville, like the Trico building, or what is that?
Yeah,
building?
yeah.
You know,
Is it for bleeded areas?
Blighted areas?
Blighted areas?
I mean, is there any?
The intent is to work with companies that are new, as coming into town,
but on that example
or existing companies that are expanding.
Right. One of the examples that was included in the package that I emailed to you from the San Marcos partnership was for a particular warehousing area that had been underutilized. It was part of the
slideshow.
Yeah, they took an abandoned warehouse area.
Who would you give the abatement to?
Whoever comes in and brings, in other words, they were given credit for taking unoccupied old structure and rehabbing it and creating the business.
And they created jobs.
Right, but they had points for redeveloping this dilapidated area. And I don't. We can go into that later. But I'm not going to.
Technically, you could. Let's say that you have an abandoned warehouse or an abandoned facility, and you have a new tenant that comes in to revitalize not only the building but that neighborhood. You could work with that business and structure some kind of incentive program under these policies.
Okay, that's not a problem.
What action do you need from us? Do you want us, if we can?
We're ready to go if you're ready to go.
All right.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Garza, second by Commissioner Hernandez to approve. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Item J, consideration and approval of Chapter 381 agreement between La Paloma Energy. You still continue to negotiate, or are you ready to?
We're ready to go with approval.
Okay. It's a recommendation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
By Commissioner Hernandez, and by Commissioner Gatsa. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, carries. Item K, consideration and approval of a resolution of the Commissioners Court of the County of Cameron supporting the establishment of a community revitalization area. Frank?
Yes, sir. This particular project, the El Refugio Townhomes LCC, is an affordable housing project that is applying for state home tax credits and also for funding from the state home program. And what we do at the county level is we see these projects every year because the state funding cycle starts around January. So we see all these projects that come to us for a resolution of support, and that's all we're doing.
You recommend it. Do I hear a motion to approve resolution by Commissioner Benavides? Do I have a second by Commissioner Hernandez? Any
Question.
further discussion?
You know, when they sent the letter to us, they're saying that they're asking us to contribute $15,000 per apartment, right?
Right, and I make it very clear to them that at this point, and historically, the county doesn't provide incentives for affordable housing. But without this resolution of support, they cannot apply for the state programs.
Yeah, but we're not agreeing to the incentive. We're not agreeing to the
No,
attached
no,
letter.
the resolution is very specific.
Right.
If you look at section
Well,
3.
Yeah, I see it very specific, but I also see a letter attached. I
That
want
was
to make sure.
just the introduction. We're not
Okay.
approving the letter, we're approving
Okay.
the resolution.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, carries. Item L, consideration and approval of a resolution of the Commissioners Court of the County of Cameron supporting the establishment of a community revitalization area. This is for Oakwoods. Same thing?
Same thing.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
And the same holds.
Same hold.
So moved.
By Commissioner Hernandez and by Commissioner Gatsa. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Item M, consideration authorization to utilize Coastal Impact Assistance Program. Pete?
Judge and Commissioners, we have backup.
This is for a salary increase?
Yes,
Okay.
and we have the recommendation, I believe it's the last page on the backup. And these are grant funds that have already been received by the county.
You recommended?
Yes, sir.
Motion to approve. Second.
Moved by Commissioner Gatsa, second by Commissioner Hernandez. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, item carries. Before we do hear a motion to go into executive session, I will have to be stepping out. I'm going to ask Commissioner Gatsa to take over the executive session item and finish it. It shouldn't take very long. I can try to get some of it in. Do I hear a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
By Commissioner Gatsa, do I have a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Benavides, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, item carried. To discuss the following items. Item A, pursuant to Code Section 551.072. Item B, pursuant to same code section. Item C, pursuant to Code Section 551.0711A. Item D, pursuant to Code Section 551.071A. Item E, pursuant to Code Section 551.0712 and 551.087. Last item, pursuant to Code Section 551.0712.